Well, welcome to the 20th episode of the ESOU podcast. 20 now, Ollie?
Wow.
Wow. And joining us today is going to be Loctavian, a fellow ESO content creator and also the ESO stream team member. They are going to be talking with us today about anything and everything. I mean, we usually talk about anything really, like whatever comes to mind, whether it's about ESO or whatever. Mostly about ESO. So yeah, I guess for the viewers or listeners, tell us about yourself, Loctavian.
I guess the best way to describe myself is I'm a MMO and open world RPG streamer, primarily focused until recently mostly on Elder Scrolls Online, game I've been playing for years and years before I decided to stream it. I would describe my play style as hardcore casual. I've done a lot of high-end content back on console, but I guess my average approach to the game is just very casual, but I call it hardcore casual because I'm putting in hundreds of hours to do casual content.
Okay.
Nice.
So what has the journey been like, I guess, from console to PC for you?
Console to PC was night and day, because originally I played on PlayStation for a very long time, since as soon as you could play on PlayStation, and then everybody I played with on PlayStation had either moved to PC, they'd moved to other games. Basically, I didn't have anyone to play with around Southern elsewhere, so I just kind of stopped. Wasn't really as fun playing. I could meet new people, but at the same time, like, I just didn't have it in me, so I took a pretty big break, and then I started streaming, and I was streaming other things, but I decided, well, if I'm gonna start over, I guess streaming's a good way to start from scratch, and picked it back up in, I'd say, October 2020, just before Markarth. So I went from playing a Stam Blade for the most part, primarily on console, to doing Nightblade Healer. And then as far as, broadcasting in ESO, my journey's basically just been trying everything. Recently, I've tried PvP. I got really into housing and stuff. But as far as going from console to PC, the biggest thing is add-ons. We're just like, I don't need add-ons. Yeah. They can't add that much. And someone's like, well, what about Lazy Writ Crafter? So I got that. And then I got a mini map.
Slippery slope.
Then I got Writworthy. Uh-huh. And then I got a whole suite of add-ons that people keep teaching me how to tweak. And so, yeah, the quality of life from, like, I know they've been adding a lot of quality of life finally in the last couple of years, but the quality of life, whether it's housing or doing trials, or honestly just looking for sky shards with add-ons, is night and day. It's so much easier on PC, which makes it a lot more engaging on PC because I'm not sitting there with like a Chromebook open next to me and an app over here trying to find a damn lore book.
Yeah, sure.
You had to do that when I went over to Xbox and PlayStation. I even made myself a guide, like on the website, with the screenshots of the locations. I'm like looking over at my phone, or or even like on the side monitor. So I get what you're saying. Oh my god.
Yeah.
But they recently added that Sky Shard thing, right?
Yeah.
Where if you're within close proximity, it shows up, which I don't understand. Why not just put it on the map?
I mean, honestly, they should just, the add-ons on PC, put it on the map. The goal is PC to console parity. A lot of things we get is because they're trying to have parity. So, well, 90% plus of people who play on PC have add-ons. So I say just show it. But at least that's the quality of life of being able to see it when you're near it is so much better than when you're a new player. Because I remember looking for Sky Shards when I was new, and it could become just hair pulling trying to find like most of them are really easy, but there's like one or two that's just like, where the fuck is this thing?
Yeah, some of the DLC ones get way harder, I feel. Like, started with Thieves Guild, I think. That's when they started getting like, that one in the Delve. That took me like a good 40 minutes, like trying to find the hidden wall and all that shit.
Yeah.
It's tough. It's a tough world for them console people.
Perhaps even tougher for content creators.
Yeah.
Especially if you have to make the content and also do it at the same time.
Yeah. I feel like if you're streaming, you've probably got a PC anyway, so why are they playing on console?
I know a number of people who started as they streamed more, they ended up getting a PC, but I know some people who were using like very simple Chromebooks with very simple like overlay, where like basically they'd be broadcasting from their Xbox and it would upload to a site that put an overlay on it, and that would upload to Twitch. It was so there's ways to do it that are quite a pain.
Yeah, God, that hadn't even occurred to me. Yeah.
But most people who stream have the PC, and you can just grab a capture card, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I had to get one.
Did you did you grow up playing console or PC? Like, which way?
I grew up doing both. When I was real young, my parents got us a Nintendo when I was a wee kid. I grew up playing Mega Man and Zelda and Mario with my dad, and then we got a Super Nintendo. But then my dad got a deal through his work to get a PC, so we got a PC pretty early on. One of my first PC games was actually Elder Scrolls 2 Daggerfall, which I did not really understand when I played it because I was younger. But yeah, so I had a PC. I had a PC all through like middle school and high school, but I also had a console. And when I go over to a buddy's house, we would mostly play stuff on consoles like Mario Kart and stuff. But when I was at home, I'd mostly be playing stuff on PC. So I've really always been kind of a console and a PC person, fortunately, versus having to like pick one or the other.
Yeah. Has it always been RPGs, or have you played anything else?
I play generally a lot of things. RPGs are my go-to though, from like early days playing like Final Fantasy on the Super Nintendo and Chrono Trigger and stuff. Yeah. But I play a lot of different games. I don't stream them all, but I used to be really, really into like, I guess it's still technically it's ARPG. I used to be really big into like Path of Exile, really big into Destiny and Destiny 2. Destiny 2 up until they sunset a bunch of weapons like a while back, over a year ago now. I've been playing a lot of like Splitgate recently. So I do a lot of FPSs, and I like a lot of like strategy games like Age of Empires, Civilization and stuff too. So I'm pretty varied in my gaming. I just stick a lot with the RPGs have so much extra hours and time in it that I end up coming back to those ones a lot more often. But yeah, I love me a good FPS as well.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
What was the last FPS you played besides Destiny, I guess?
Splitgate, that's the one I've been playing on and off most of it. So yeah, the mix of portal mechanics and FPS mechanics is just like really fun. So I've been doing that quite a bit. Also, haven't gone back to it, but when it was first out there for a while, like everyone else, I was doing Back for Blood because it's basically the spiritual successor to like Left 4 Dead. So
yeah,
they're good, just like squad-based, team-based like FPS action.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of want to check out that Rainbow Six one with the infection thing. What's it called? Rainbow something. Just too many rainbows.
Tom Clancy's Rainbow 12. So, yeah, I don't know.
No, it's like a zombie game, but squad based. But it's the Rainbow Six take on basically like Left 4 Dead, I guess, or Back 4 Blood, whatever. Now, yeah, I kind of want to check that out. But
yeah,
doesn't seem like it's very popular, unfortunately.
Have you got into like, was it Elden Ring and stuff, like Dark Souls? Because that's a kind of casual. It's not casual, but it's like RPG, but casuals play it.
I am big into Soulsborne games. Sekiro. Prior to getting into streaming, Sekiro had come out, but I hadn't really ever streamed Sekiro. I was at a point with Sekiro where I was trying to do. I never got past 2 bosses with them. I was trying to do like hitless runs. I love Sekiro, and I've been playing a ton of Elden Ring, probably over 100 hours of Elden Ring now recently. It's like a bunch of Souls games in one. It's so good. But yeah, no, I love Soulsborne games because honestly, at the end of the day, the content I like, the games I like are super challenging because there's something. When I was younger, I used to run, I used to do marathons and stuff, I used to climb mountains, and it's kind of the same thing with Souls games. Like there's something about beating your head against a wall that you don't think you can surpass, and then you get past it, and then when you get past that wall, it just like the dopamine is worth like hours of salt are worth like the moment I killed the Nameless King in like Dark Souls 3, like because I killed that sucker, and that just felt really good. And that's kind of I haven't been doing trials since I've been on PC. Back when I did World of Warcraft in ESO with trials, I was also a big thing about doing trials was the same thing as running with a same group of people, running with progress groups, getting a trifecta, getting that super hard clear for the first time, and having a group of people just sit there and be like, we after a ton of like pain, we did this thing.
Yeah. So how come in Elder Scrolls you've not felt like doing like trials yet? Is that something that's in the future, or is something that doesn't appeal to you?
I've grown playing. One, I decided I never I used to do healing in World of Warcraft. Almost every other MMO I've ever played, healer support. never did that in Elder Scrolls. So I was picking up healer, so I was little bit kind of gun shy about healing, because healing in a trial is a bit of a different thing. Also, since I was just starting to stream it, like grabbing all the sky shards and clearing zones, like that made good content, because I've been trying to learn how to respond more to chat, or not feel like I'm a bad creator if I'm in the thick of it for a period of time. I know from watching other streamers, viewers understand that, but there's a part of me who wants to be responding to chat. But if I do respond to chat, am I going to let down like 11 other people? So it's been part of it's also not just working on my skills. So I feel like if I was just not streaming it, I would just push my skills, talk to people, practice, and be able to get into it. But with streaming, it's kind of like, I also want to make sure that my streaming skills are kind of up to par, so that I'm not letting down viewers while I do it. So it's kind of a matter of either needing to decide to do trials, maybe off stream initially, or being better about how I stream, so I can do content where I'm not letting a group down if I either I'm not letting chat down or I'm not letting a group down, depending on what I'm doing. Yeah, no, I totally get that. Yeah, people don't watch raid streams.
What? Yeah, they do.
only if you're like really top level.
The other thing is I don't have build guides and tutorials and the thing, so people don't find my content off stream, go, oh, this is a person who knows how to do builds, this is a person who knows how to run this content. I feel like if you have that external content where people can recognize your name externally as somebody who knows how to do the trial or knows how to put together a build, they're more inclined to want to watch you run a trial, because they want to see those builds in action. They want to see those strats in action. Yeah, sure. Where somebody like me is not known, I'm more known for casual content. I don't think it would be as appealing, because I'm not somebody with like a website like or with builds. That's not the sort of thing I do. Yeah, that totally makes sense.
With the streaming thing, yeah, I understand what you're saying for sure. Like, I've had to, I have a little compromise. Like, if I'm in the thick of it, I just focus on it. And after it's over, or like in between, I don't know, like trash pulls, or maybe in the lobby of the trial, that's when I interact. But other than that, also depends on the kind of run too. I think, like, you know Ninja, right? Loctavian?
Yeah.
He's found this thing where I feel like he's found this perfect balance for himself, where the kinds of run he does is like so carefree to the point you can do either one. You know what I mean? Like, so maybe that's something that could be explored for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose that the way I've managed to handle it is, if you have your own group, then at least you can't get kicked from it, right? So if you die to something stupid because you're looking at chat, which has happened quite a few times, then people can't tell you off for it. I mean, sure, they'll leave your guild, but
but mainly I've been doing I've been moving into the veteran and veteran hard mode dungeons in normal trials. So I've been moving that way as I've cleared more and more of the re-cleared more and more of the content. It's getting to the point where the content that's left, the things I still need to do to get my like unlock my dyes, unlock like skins and personalities and all that is the harder content to get more achievement points. So I've been gravitating that way. Yeah. Have you felt the difficulty? How much has it challenged you compared to like, Dark Souls or Elden Ring or whatever? Because a lot of people say the Overland's easy, but the sort of when you start getting into the veteran content, it is a big step. Yeah. So that's a really great topic, and I think that was like the main topic that got me invited on the show. So I want to talk about that. Here we go. We both have. So I agree 100% with Nephis. I just have a different perspective because the people I interact with are more casuals. Sure. But I completely agree, because here is the ESO ramp. A little bit learning it. Okay, Overland content. I don't have to weave. I don't need to learn light attack weaving. I don't have to really learn my rotations. I can have a bad rotation. Okay, I'm doing the non-DLC dungeons. A little bit of a slip. Oh, I'm doing the DLC dungeons. And then I'm doing a vet dungeon. And there's the slant. And now I'm doing a hard mode. And then I might not even be able to get into the vet because I'm not pulling DPS, and unless I know where to look or I happen to have joined a guild, then just I hit a wall. So like my take is I don't want introductions to content that divide the population further. So I don't know how you would introduce a way, because we need the ramp up, but I also, if you start divided into like hard version of the zone, non-hard version of the zones and things like that, I just feel like it doesn't accomplish the ramp. But at the same time, I do understand what Nephis' point was and what other people who have talked to in chat's point is, which is like there also is such pushback against meta or such pushback against certain things, like, or people want an easy run or whatever. So like there's like a disconnect between people who want to get there and people who are there, and people like me just look things up and figure it out how to do it, but other people sometimes get stuck, and I don't know how, because Elden Ring, hard as it is, has a ramp. You leave to the first area, Tree Knight smashes your head with an axe a few times, you learn, we come back when we're stronger. We get to Margit, we realize, oh, we need to find some things that can help us with Margit. We learn how to parry, we learn how to dodge with our iframes, we get to Godric. Now, Margit and all these things we taught, Godric's putting it all together. Like, as hard as it is, there's layers that teach you the different things you need to know as you're going. Whereas I feel like the jump from non-vet content to vet content and vet content to hard mode content, there isn't a connection. There isn't like a ramp. There isn't anything teaching me, even in the DLC dungeons, non-vet version, really how to do some of the harder mechanics or attack weaving or these things I need to do. And I think that's honestly the challenge that a lot of people kind of face moving on.
Yeah, I mean, you can see a very little bit of it in. They kind of started to do it with the DLC dungeons. I mean, even with like White Gold Tower, like you experience the portals and then you fight the boss with the portals. I think they know what it is to introduce people to mechanics, but it's just that they've not done that well enough for the progression of how hard it is. You just like blast through it, so
yeah.
You know.
Yeah, and you blast through it, and if you have a group and you're learning it, like you do learn it. I think half the time you end up going in and there's somebody who's just over leveled, ready. If you're going into a pug who like, that's the thing about learning mechanics, and that's where I don't know how to teach it. Because like if you go with a prog group, you go with people who are around your skill level, and you go into, we can use the new dungeons. You can go into Coral Area, you learn enough stuff, and then I went into Coral Area Vet the same day, the first day it came out. And I didn't play it on PTS and went with people who didn't play it on PTS. And it did ramp up at a fair rate. But if you go into Coral Area with somebody who knows how to do everything and can blast through it, just over DPS it. And there's nothing wrong with that. Obviously, if you're doing pledges and things like that, it's going to happen. I don't know. That's where I do agree there needs to be some harder Overland content or something outside of dungeons for people to learn some of these things. Because I know it's happened to me before back on console where I thought certain fights were easy, and I didn't even know there were certain mechanics because the people I was running with, just the DPS output was so high that we would blast through a boss, and then I go in with people who are more on the same like level as I am, and all of a sudden we're like, oh, what is this thing I never saw before?
Yeah, like I remember in Elden Hollow where it's like the healing ghosts and all those things. I had no idea they existed for a very long time until I started doing some pledges with the casual guild or whatever. And yeah, I think the ceiling needs to be, the floor needs to be raised a little bit for the like lower end players, but it's tricky because you want to try and convince them that it's not as scary as they might think it is, and that maybe they will actually have more fun if they find it more challenging. But yeah, you don't want to be like ableist or whatever. It's real tough.
Well,
yeah, it's hard because I feel like that most of the time, and I'm going to say there's bad people. Most people I've encountered in ESO are good. The problem is people resonate with emotional responses better. So you resonate with defeating something for the first time. That's a positive emotional response.
Right.
Kind of doing it again and again is a neutral response. So you don't really remember that. And all of a sudden you get in a group with like one toxic asshole, which there's nothing you can do that doesn't affect it. That all of a sudden, like I have a bunch of people like talk to me in chat or friends talk to me and like, I just never want to try vet again because like the third time they tried it, they happened to get one of these like, toxic assholes.
Right.
And, like not toxic in a like you need to do this, like, hey, you need to hold aggro tank, but like in a like, hey, actually it happened to me the other day. I was talking in chat and healing. It was a vet Dark Shade 2. And everybody's health was 60% or higher the whole time. So I wasn't firing out my orbs as often as I should because we're blasting through the boss super fast, healing. And I got one of these toxic lectures about why I should never play healer again. I go, for me, it's funny. For me, it's funny, right? For me, it's kind of funny. It irks me. I don't think it's funny, but like for me, it irks me. I stopped doing the dungeon. I cool down, I come back to dungeons. If that was my first time doing it, it would be a whole different thing. But these are two different subjects, because the main thing is bridging the gap between I keep on words, but trials and the harder content and the casual content. And like, I guess part of the problem there isn't really hard Overland content that teaches that. So how do you, and also it sounds like the more and more people I talk to, there seems to be a want for harder Overland content to engage people who are veteran players of the game who want to like get more challenge from, the Overland. So there seems to be something in there that could bridge the gap between teaching people outside of the dungeon and trial setting, while also maybe providing something for higher end players. But I don't think the answer I keep hearing, which is they should create hard versions of the zones for people to choose to be in hard modes, because I think that splits the player base and doesn't accomplish the goal, which is having harder content, but also having content that bridges the gap for more casual players. Because ultimately, you want more casual players going from normal to vet to hard modes, because the more people who do that sort of content, the more people there is to do that content with, the more people are going to enjoy that content, the more reasons ZeniMax might have a reason to prioritize even more content like that, because a bigger percentage of their player base is doing it.
Oh yeah, I mean, I 100% agree with everything you said so far up to this point. We were having a discussion on Twitter, and I fucking hate Twitter because it's so limited. Holy shit, I can't like express the full ideas or anything, and it was like, fuck this shit. And people thought we were like fucking fighting. I'm like, no, we're not. I'm not fighting. I'm just like,
that's why I sent you a DM like right after. I'm like, I realized with the limited characters, I'm like,
it's just so bad.
It sounds like I'm telling Nefis to F off, and how dare he think there should be a ramp. And
no, I didn't take it like that.
A different perspective on it, but maybe a different approach to it. But I agree. Like,
I
80%
agree.
Here, I'm gonna agree. But Twitter's horrible because I have 140 characters. The next thing people read and go,
terrible.
Loctavian and Nefis drama alert.
Yeah, that's terrible. It's fucking terrible. Yeah, I do agree with you on definitely strongly on the whole like separating instances thing. I keep hearing that solution over. Even this like gaming journalist dude over at what's that website I put in my recent video. Was it overly MMO overpowered? I don't know. It's like something MMO.com, right? This guy is also, he's like, oh, I'm casual. I don't really. He literally describes himself as a Care Bear, right? And then he says in the article, like, maybe the solution is to divide Overland into hard mode and normal. I'm just like, where are these people getting these ideas? But I get it. It makes sense because that's the dungeons and trials, right? So why not apply to Overland? But I have two problems with that. The first problem was what you said about like how that doesn't exactly. I mean, I guess like would that in itself be a ramp between normal to hard Overland, and then from there possibly to something else? But then the second problem I have with that is the technical specifics of that. Like, how would that work? You know what I mean? Let's say you have a normal instance of Deshawn and then a veteran instance of Deshawn. Do these instances have different guild traders? You know what I mean? Like, how do you do this? You know what I mean? Or like, are people thinking? I don't know. Like, I don't know how hard is going to be, and considering the game almost breaks every patch. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like I don't know, man. I don't know about that.
Most solutions are like a huge overhaul, and probably would be a lot of work. And in separating them out, with guild traders and things like that. Somebody in chat had mentioned like how like old vet rank back in the day of vet ranks in Craigorn used to be like a good balance, and I think you can accomplish it. I mean, you might even have to add additional stuff to a zone. I almost feel like you could accomplish it by not making the existing content harder, but keeping content in the same zone. And kind of like, I mean, nowadays nowadays with CP and everything, you can just solo Craiglore, and even if you walk into areas where it says this is a group area of Craiglore, it's not. Nothing's a group area. Like,
right.
I was walking through without switching off of my healer build and just blasting through Craiglore nowadays. But maybe something like that, though, similar to that, where areas or offshoot areas of zones, new areas of old zones, where it's like when you go into it, it's like this is a harder section.
Yeah, yeah.
I think people also bring up Kraglin quite a bit in this kind of conversation, in this topic, because people look at Kraglin as both a success and a failure, depending on your perspective. People look at it as a success because of, they remember how difficult it was, but they still did it anyway, and they liked it. But the failure because when it was released, and sometime after its release, people didn't really engage with it too well after a while. And a lot of people perceive that to be because of the difficulty, but I remember it being mostly about how they implemented those group areas and stuff, and the group delves. You had to party up with, people to actually unlock areas, which I think threw a lot of people off, for sure. You know what I mean? Like, I think...
Yeah, that one door, wasn't there, in the north? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I mean, you need like 300 people, 400 people, right? For some of these things. I think that's the wrong way to go about it if you're trying to introduce people to more difficult content. Like, if you want... Like, you should have the freedom to explore, you know what I mean? Like, without needing to get in a group. And if you get your butt handed to you, well, whatever, like, you had the freedom to do that. Yeah. But with Kraglin, they forced it. And I think that didn't really vibe with a lot of people, for sure. So, yeah, maybe something to consider.
The other solution or idea I heard, and then someone in chat was mentioning something similar, which was maybe implementing something versus separating people, implement an optional way to implement nerfs on yourself that like limit your like overall power and things like that. So just looking at other MMOs, not for zones, but for dungeon content, Final Fantasy has a thing when you go into a group that you can basically use all your current items and everything, but you can set it to basically normalize your eye level out to like what your item level should have been for it. And something of even a toggle like that where it restricts your power, so you're forced to do mechanics and it's more challenging that way, might be a good way, because then people who don't toggle it, it's not going to be as hard. And even things like the Souls game all of the Souls games have an item you can basically equip that makes you take more damage, makes more enemies attack you, things like that. I don't know if something like that would work with Overland content, because I don't know how you would, someone who's normalized at a lower eye level versus somebody who has like the correct level. I don't, especially since the game already normalizes everybody across zones. I'm not sure if that would work, but
you could turn like gold gear into green gear or whatever, stuff like that. But is there like a benefit to that? Is there like do you get more XP or more gold or something for like nerfing yourself a bit?
In Souls games, in Souls games it's about being hard, but I think in an MMO, like in an MMO, you could incentivize things like that by providing stuff. Because I think the issue is with the Overland being too easy is new content comes out, High Owl's going to come out. Yes, High Owl's going to have a trial. It's going to have, we already have a couple dungeons. A bit later, it's going to get a couple more dungeons. But the actual Overland content itself, if you played the game a while, your champion points are super high. Like, if you're somebody who enjoys the story, you might enjoy the story, but you're just going to kind of sleep the fights all the way through the story. And I think there's people who want to engage with the stories either again or for the first time and experience them with a actual like level of like threat. Because going through, like, even if you're going through like the most recent stuff, by the time you have this cool end fight with like Dagon, but by the time you fought all the bosses up to Dagon, if you've played the game for a while, there's no challenge to it. It's just walking from cool set piece to cool set piece, and it ruins
my immersion.
You're losing experienced players who would engage with that content or even re-engage with that content, because like I went back and did zones because I restarted on PC, but back on console, very rarely would I go back and do a full zone clear. Like I go grab sky shards and stuff, but I'm not going to go like re-experience the story of the zone because there's not an added challenge even on my alts to really do that. So I see the need or the want for it, and I can see, why would be a good thing. I just don't know how to get there. And obviously none of us work at ZeniMax, so none of us could implement them anyway, but I'm just not sure how the best strat to get there would be.
I don't know either, but I do agree with you. I'm one of those many people that want the lore. That may surprise some people. Like, I want to be immersed. I want to engage with the characters. I want to feel like I'm in the story or something. But the way that they've been doing the Overland, plus some of the stories, like, it's always the world's always ending. It just like removes you so much. I don't know, like, and in that video, I'm like I'm telling people, does this look like the face? Because it's like me talking over the VOD of me questing that exact same quest about Maroon Zagon, killing Maroon Zagon. I'm like, does this face look like the face of someone who's enjoying questing? And my face is like, you guys can't see my face, I guess, but like, this is like, I don't know. It looks like I'm at the in the cubicle, the office cubicle. It's just like, I look back, I'm like, wow, I'm really not actually having fun, am I? Like, it's just, I don't know. It's so jarring for me to like one shot a boss during a quest, like intermittent boss, not like necessarily Dagon or Moloch or Nocturnal, but like so what I mean.
But the big bosses leading up that have, if you're doing it and you're low level and you're casual, some of the bosses have actually they went to the length of giving them cool mechanics and stuff. But if you're really strong, then you're not gonna even experience any of that. You're just gonna one shot it and move to the next area.
Right, but also even for
that they've put in forced stuff now where like the boss's health bar, you can't attack it anymore whilst it does a little animation to make it feel a bit longer, but it's still
time gate. Oh my god, yeah. I mean, time gates are really, I don't know, hard. You know what I mean? Like, I get why they do it with Lair Marsalok or some of these quest bosses, but like
it doesn't add to the enjoyment.
It does not add to the enjoyment.
It doesn't make it feel more epic. It makes it feel more.
Feels like a chore.
Yeah.
Like you're staying there looking at your watch and be like, okay, when's this over? But yeah, I mean, I would say even for like the newer and more casual players, I think the problem isn't the fact that they're newer or whatever, but the fact that the game powers you up too early in the game. You know what I mean? I see. I mean, I went to the just for this topic, I went to the ESO Reddit, and I've been looking at these threads where these newer players are creating these threads talking about how the game's already too easy. I'm just like, you know what I mean? Obviously, that's not the case for everybody, but when you see this general trend of Overland being too easy, I have to wonder, like, well, when are they going to do something about it?
I think it's true of most players. Maybe not everyone. Maybe if it's your first MMO or something, like I get that, but that's what I meant by the ramping. Like the Overland content, even the hardest Overland content, really pales to like even normal mode DLC dungeons. There's no like good ramp, and I get that there's a challenge there because ESO, when it came out, had a lot of backlash. It didn't feel like an Elder Scrolls game. There's a lot of people checking it out who weren't originally MMO players coming from the single player Elder Scrolls games, and they hated that they just couldn't go to every zone. Like in Skyrim, I can go anywhere I want whenever I want, and they came up with a really clever way early on to do that, where your stats normalize so you can experience the story in the order you want and go wherever you want. But that takes away what almost every other MMO has, which is these zones are lower level, like the way ESO was originally built in the more traditional MMO pattern. And while I love that about ESO, it does mean that I feel like they have to create all content equalized because anybody could be starting with any zone at any time. So making like one zone harder than another zone isn't part of the design strategy anymore, because they want people to, like, if High Isle comes out and the first time somebody logs in, they want people to start with High Isle, not have to like build up to it. And the positives of that do come with the negatives of not being able to make harder zones, but with the current design philosophy.
Yeah, I feel like the end goal here isn't to sort of separate players into more different categories. We want like more players to be able to play the same thing.
Yeah. Right.
So we always think, the idea is like veteran Overland. That's not what we want. We want more people to be able to play at every level. That's the end goal, really.
Right. And that kind of gets into I guess like I feel like they dug themselves into this hole with nerfing Overland content used to be difficult, right? Then they nerfed it once or twice, heavily. And I think those nerfs actually introduced more divide rather than bridging gaps, because what happened was, in my opinion, like at a social level, like back in the day when you were having issues with Overland content, or like you couldn't get past the quest boss, the first thing you did was hit up a friend. The first thing you did was hit up the guild, and people would respond and help you. But then when you nerf the content to the point where you don't really need anyone's help, what does that do to like I guess, social fabric of, a guild. Like, the guild system is so bare bones enough as it is. Like, like why are you, you know what I mean? Why are you in the guild already?
Yeah.
Like, for a trader? Okay, and what else? No one really engages in guild chats much beyond, unless the entire purpose of the guild is to socialize, right?
Right.
But then when you don't need help and you don't need to interact with anyone because this is technically a single player MMO, I just think that kind of leads to this weird place where people suddenly aren't asking questions or suddenly aren't engaging with other players, and that creates this gap in knowledge too. Because if you're not engaging with other players, you don't know what's going on. That's what I meant on Twitter too, like about like how it made this natural divide, and then
I agree 100% with that, with the divide. So I'll go back to my early days on console. I tried it on PC initially. I actually didn't like how the game originally was. Came out on console. They had one Tamriel and all the different additions, which I thought were good as I was but this is before like Overland content nerfs. When I got to something that was more difficult, world bosses or whatever, I asked in zone chat, and zone chat can be just sleazy, horrible, toxic, but there's also decent people at it. And I did. I asked, and somebody gave me advice. They came in. I jumped in a group with them. They explained it to me. And because I took instructions well, they said, hey, you seem to take instructions well. Hey, why don't you join you get a guild slot? I go, I have a guild slot with my friends, but I got more, so I can join. I joined, and that's how I joined my first guild, because I had to ask for help. Nice player in the zone who knew how to do it came and helped me and taught me some stuff. Realized we talked, we got along a bit because on there's proximity chat on console, so it's easy to talk to each other. And said, oh, you take instructions really well. If you want to learn some trials, you can join the guild. And that's how I did trials. And then from there, that's how I did, veteran trials and hard mode trials, and got more and more into that. But yeah, that's the other part about the ramp up. Because it's harder to engage if you get into a pickup group. For a dungeon, you might get somebody who's willing to explain the mechanics and stuff, and that's cool, but there's not as much like walking around and interacting, and that interacting forms the bonds. And like you said, that does create that divide. And I think that is probably a big reason why there's that like divide. And then people feel trapped in the casual, or just want to be casual and feel like the top end trial people don't even want them to do stuff, which isn't true, but that's the feeling. And then there's people who do the trial stuff because these people are getting upset, and there's upset. People who do the hard trial stuff are like, man, these casual players, they freaking hate mid and they hate us. And then it gets more and more divided because people are, honestly, they're just frustrated with not being able to like make those connections. And yeah, that divide gets further and further apart as people get frustrated, and they take out those frustrations on each other. At least that's my opinion of it. I think for every toxic person who's saying something to be toxic, there's 3 people who are saying something that's negative, but their negativity's actually coming from just a place of frustration that game design or something might be able to fix, because if they weren't frustrated, they wouldn't be like mouthing off, like that's my opinion. At least my experience with toxic people is a good percentage of them are just frustrated people, not actually like wanting to be toxic for the sake of it.
Really? Oh.
Not the vile toxic people. I'm talking about the let me clarify. I'm not talking about I'm not talking about those toxic people. I'm talking about like the, I'm talking about the people abrasive people. Yeah, I'm talking about the person whose posts on Reddit go from like, oh, this is fun, I'm having a good time, oh, this is cool, to fuck veteran trial because they had a negative experience. I'm talking about the abrasive person who was positive and then had a negative experience. I'm not talking about the like actual. I guess let's use the term abrasive, because I don't actually. I realize toxic covers a whole range. So I don't. Yeah, the toxic players are toxic. I'm talking about the people who get abrasive and start pushing back. Like even myself, find myself sometimes pushing back if I don't talk to people because I feel frustrated. I feel like people don't want to make the connection or the effort.
Yeah, for sure, I get it. Actually, I kind of want to explore that idea a little bit of nerfing yourself, because that's also another solution people are bringing up with this whole thing. That
I think those are the 2 solutions I've heard: is either divide everybody into like a hard mode version of the zone and a normal version of the zone, or allowing people to self-nerf.
But there's also a camp of players, a huge camp of players who are like, whoa, if it's too easy for you, why don't you just take off your armor? You know what I mean? Like, I'm just like, that's another way of nerfing yourself, right? But I'm like, I don't know, man. There's like a big difference between, I don't know if it's like
Like, you already can nerf yourself technically if you wanted to.
I mean, yeah, you can take out
That's not
CP,
really the point,
you can take off gear, but like, is that enjoyable to do, or like, you know what I mean? I don't know. Like, at that point,
I feel like you incentivize that to draw the people who are currently not doing Overland content back to Overland content, to nerf themselves, to make it more challenging. Why would you bother to go make it more challenging? Because you have to self-nerf and there's nothing to show for it. I do feel like incentives, titles are kind of like, there's a ton of titles, but like, even if it's like skins or mounts or something, like, because it's cool to show things, right? You do you do like certain content, you can get the beast personality. You do certain content, you can get this cool mount, and the only reason those things are cool, and you can show them off to people, and people can see that, know that you did these things. I feel like if you if there's achievement section for making the game harder for myself, and I could get like titles or achievement furnishings, just the things they already offer us for various achievements for doing it, I would definitely want to go back and make it harder for myself, because, you know, there's something to show for it. And I'm one of those people who loves to pick up all my little trophies and titles and skins and stuff like that. So I feel like maybe you could incentivize it to get people to want to go do it, to give them a reason to do that content with it being harder versus just making it harder for the sake of making it harder. Because I hear that too, but people just like, well, just take off your gear then if you want it to be harder. I'm like, but that's not the point. Like that's not a built-in mechanic. That's me making it harder on myself for no real reason. And then people will see me do it and be like, why the fuck are you doing that?
I said this to Finn in a stream, and he told me I should do more of Lore Cards with 300 CP, because that's what it was designed for. So I mean, I can, but that's not what I want.
I mean, even with 300 CP, depending on the group, you can still skip everything, or mechanics. I mean, you can do Pat 3 probably, you know, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
On the side note, oh, sorry, you're on.
No, I was going to say, like, I would like the incentives to be repeatable. So, I mean, yeah, skins and all that kind of stuff is nice, but as someone that's got everything, I still want something else other than that. Like, the only thing at the moment I can find that's rewarding is it's PvP, because you can earn your alliance points for, like, forever, and then or making gold. That's fun as well. Something with some replayability. I think that's what they're lacking for sure.
Yeah, I guess I can see that with replayability, because there's a reason, if you like doing solo content, there's a reason to go back and do arenas even after you got the gear, because you can score push.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a reason to go do PvP, because like, so there's alliance points you can push for Emperor. There's an ongoing thing in some systems in the game to do it for people who want to. Like, not everybody's going to go back and do arenas to score push, but there is a mechanic there that, I mean, that was one of the things I got into really heavy on console was veteran Maelstrom arena score pushing. I just really, because there was a score and I could show people during that time frame just how good I could do that content, and that was cool. So there's incentives there too that you can do by, whether it be alliance points from PvP or scores from the things that have scores on them. I don't know if those systems will work also, but when people a lot of people like to be able to show something for the work they're putting in.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So there is, so another aspect to this is, I guess, accessibility. I think we kind of touched on earlier. Like, why do you think people, is it like, I guess my question is, like, why do people equate difficulty to accessibility? That makes sense. Or is it actually the same? Because, like, here's a comment that was posted 54 minutes ago. I never realized I was disabled until I started playing ESO. I'm being serious. Nerve and physical damage to my hands over almost 30 years of construction have made it so I cannot light attack wave. Yeah, go ahead and make the rest of the game harder before thinking about addressing accessibility issues. And I can stop playing and hanging out with friends. It's very snide, but I'm like kind of curious if this is like legitimate
subject, that, isn't it?
you know what I mean?
I'll say something right now, and I'm very much probably in the minority with it.
Uh-huh.
light attack weaving was not an intentional part of the game, and then they just kept building the game around it, and the game probably would have been easier to build around accessibility and mechanics if it didn't have light attack weaving, which I feel is the most difficult. It's the most difficult thing from an accessibility standpoint, and I think honestly, light attack weaving is probably the hardest part for newer players to kind of grasp as they're trying to get their DPS to the numbers needed to do harder content. You can't take it out at this point, but it's one of those, like, it kind of everything's about. I mean, now it's all light attack weaving. It used to be like light and heavy and different types of attack weaving, but
there was medium weaving back then.
Yeah, there was medium. Stand Blade's actually originally built around medium weaving, mostly light attack weaving with occasional like heavy weaving in it when I was playing initially, and then moved to just light attack weaving. But that's like, it's not explained to the game as something that you need to do to push your damage. It's something that people have to teach you, basically, that oh, by the way, to get your DPS you have to do this thing, because it's not like it's not like a block or a roll dodge or something. It's a non-explained part of the game that is ultimately crucial to being able to do good DPS.
Right. Well, there's a loading screen tip now, right?
Yeah, there's a loading screen tip, sure. But like, they tried to do that thing on the PTS, didn't they, where light and heavy attacks didn't they swap it around? Like, heavy attacks did more damage and light attacks restored resources, something like that. And then they quickly scrapped that. But I think, would something like that be a step towards accessibility, like nerfing light attacks? Because I feel like it's on their radar.
I mean, they definitely feel that as a pain point, right? Remember that PTS cycle? Not PTS cycle, it's like a test cycle. Yeah. It's something really unique they did, where they're like, okay, guys, we're not changing the game or anything, but go to PTS and test these light attack and heavy attack changes. Remember that? Where the light attacks were restoring like 20% of your resource. I'm just saying, it did less damage than heavy attacks. I mean, I don't know, man. Like,
yeah. I think that's kind of what keeps people playing ESO, though, is that the combat feels so different for an MMO. And that's the other thing. Like, I don't know if you want to take that away, because that might lose players as well. Yeah.
I don't want to necessarily take it away at this point, but it's when going back to like teaching people and ramping things up. They know it's part light attack weaving. The attack weaving is part of doing damage. They know everybody has to do it to get to the harder content. People have to learn it by either being taught by a friend, taught by a guildmate they learn, or looking it up because they happen to be looking at a build guide or a website.
Yeah, and
honestly, they probably should just teach that in game, since it's a crucial part of the game. I don't know about the accessibility of it. I do know it's not necessarily the most difficult thing for me to do, but I'm not physically disabled. Like, that's like, I have mental disabilities, but I don't have physical ones, so that hasn't been there. But I could see how that could pose a challenge for somebody who's disabled.
Yeah.
And why that could be frustrating for. But I mean, accessibility in gaming needs to take a forefront in general. I think there's a lot of games that could deal with a little more attention to accessibility issues.
Yeah, like Colorblind Mode.
Yeah, I was going to say Colorblind Mode. I remember I used to do Dragon Star Arena with a colorblind guy, and was it like the poison round where red AoEs on green grass floor, and he was constantly dying, and we were getting annoyed with him. He was getting annoyed at the game. It's like, it took them long enough to do that. So it's a tough one, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I actually have limited color range. It's not color blindness. It's not that severe, but I don't have the full range of colors most people have, and I have to change a lot of my bars and circles to like neon pinks and like baby blues and stuff like that, because reds on browns in the game, like I wouldn't see the circles sometimes either. So I can understand that's got to be even more difficult for somebody who's colorblind, who, unlike me, can't just change things to extreme colors to like differentiate.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I was struggling with was it Corollary, that massive blue circle? I'm constantly standing in that. Yeah. So maybe I've got some kind of like blue-white color blindness.
I think those colors just blend together, to be completely honest.
Yeah.
I think they do that intentionally, though.
Oh,
for sure. I mean,
fine. Yeah.
Me and Loctavian, me and Ollie were giving feedback to Finn last year with regards to
Kimra.
Well, not Kinra, Base. The portal cone? And
Oh
how
shit!
it like,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
that
like,
one. Yeah, that
like
one sucked as
meshed
well.
so well with the blue floor. I'm just like, you have a blue portal code with no telegraph on a
Yeah.
blue floor. You know what I mean? It's like, what,
Yeah.
what is this, right? But they didn't change it.
Yeah, but
Because I think
sometimes they
it's
go over
intended.
the top though. Like, didn't we complained about in Kratos and Kinra because like, the whole
Yeah.
arena was orange. Like you
Right.
try and do flares in Cloud Rest, and you just couldn't see the floor at all. It was crazy.
Yeah, I can say
Yeah.
that too. Like, some of the class reps have forwarded that thing, about visual noise. For
Mm.
sure, I think it's a big concern sometimes, especially with some of these new sets. Because they gotta make it flashier, they gotta make it stronger, you know what I mean? It's just, terrible.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, how how much do we need to have concessions for accessibility? Because of course, it's something that everyone wants, but
Well, again, that kind of goes back to my original question. What is, how is difficulty equated to accessibility? Does that make sense?
As far as difficulty and accessibility,
Because I think those are separate, not the same.
yeah.
They can
I
intersect.
mean, like
but-
obviously, I obviously things like being able to change colors on things and stuff for people who have like
Right.
colorblindness and things like that. And the post you read sounded like somebody who has a bit more difficulty with the controls, right? To be able to pull off like light attack weaving and stuff like that. But the change to that actually would have to be a fundamental change to combat that isn't reliant
Right.
on weaving as much. But it's hard. I feel like there are, depending on your disability and things like that, there are things that can be added to the game to make sure that the game is more accessible to play. And then there's certain things that might not. But I don't know that they always necessarily correlate to each other. In terms of like the game needing more accessibility features and all games needing more accessibility features does not necessarily equate to the not changing the difficulty of the game, because you can up the difficulty of the game in a way that works with accessibility settings and works with accessibility just fine. There are some very complex games, difficult games out there whose accessibility settings allow players to do that content just fine.
Yeah.
So I think it still goes back to needing some form of a ramp in terms of content to help people learn things. Like I said, if you have a friend, if you look it up, if you have a guild, you'll probably learn attack weaving. But if you don't have those things, it can take a long time to learn this thing and wonder why you're stuck at like 25k DPS because you've never heard of attack weaving.
Right. I guess that also kind of ties in with, can Overland be intuitive like some other games, you know what I mean? And teaching the player, like, hey, if we keep introducing you to this concept, then can you keep doing it? Like, kind of like, other games do. And I bring that whole accessibility thing up because this is something I often see when we're discussing Overland content. People always are like, well, I'm afflicted with so-and-so, or like, I've had this condition, or even, you know what I mean? And I get where they're coming from, but, like, I just don't see accessibility and difficulty necessarily being equivalent to one another, or like, it being the same thing.
The concern, or at least what it sounds like to me, the concern there is, if you increase the difficulty of Overland content, the content that I can do as somebody who is afflicted with this disability, is it going to be so hard that now I'm locked out of other content? Maybe because of being disabled, I can't do veteran dungeons and trials. All of a sudden, is Overland content going to be locked out? And again, I think the answer goes back to what I mentioned earlier, which I already think needs to be there to lessen the divide, which is finding a way to make more difficult Overland content that doesn't divide people. I think the general concern comes from, am I going to lose things I can do? If you make this more difficult, are you taking away the one thing I have, which is this Overland content? And the correct solution is to add more difficulty without taking that content away from casual players, which also includes people with accessibility issues, I feel. So that's the solution, is to find a way to both increase Overland content and the difficulty of it without removing content from players, because that's the concern on the casual in general, is if it gets harder, does that mean I'm going to have less content to do come the next expansion? And the answer is no, we don't want that. We want experienced veteran players playing with casual players, bridging the gap so that people who want to move on can move on to the harder content, and people who are doing the harder content want to come down to the Overland content. We want to bridge the gap so there's more back and forth, not just I want to learn the lore, but I have to deal with this like content.
Right.
Because it's too easy, or I would like to do harder content, but I don't even know where to start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Elden Ring actually has had this conversation about difficulty and accessibility. Actually, like, I know, like a streamer friend, Raffarino. I don't know if you guys know her. She was a ESO content creator or player, but she's like a Dark Souls fan. She mains Elden Ring right now, and she like she tweeted out like this huge tweet, like comparing Elden Ring difficulty being lowered to like Animal. What's that? Animal Farm? No, what was it?
Animal
Stardew
Crossing.
Valley.
Animal Crossing. Yeah, sorry, Animal Farm. Animal Crossing, and then people send their death threats and shit. I'm like, I don't know, man. Like the whole difficulty versus accessibility.
I'm gonna tell you the Souls secret for anybody who doesn't know the Dark Souls secret. Dark Souls, all Dark Souls games, Bloodborne, Sekiro, and Elden Ring actually do have a difficulty slider, and that difficulty slider isn't a slider you can access in the game, but there is equipment, there are abilities, and there are leveling up. So yes, it is a very difficult game that doesn't tell you what to do. You have to learn to do it. But like in Elden Ring, you get crushed by Margit, you get crushed by TreeNet, you can go get these abilities. There's things you can use in Elden Ring, certain summons, certain weapon abilities, things like that. It's not, there's even an item you can get early on that actually makes Margit weaker. And Souls games are often built like that, other than some optional super hard bosses like Nameless King or Millennia or something like that. But that people get really frustrated about Souls games, but honestly, Souls games, for their rampant teaching how to do content, actually also have things, because I can go straight to Margit, and I can go to Margit with a heavy weapon, and I can do all the mechanics and blast through Margit if I want to do it the hard way. But I can also go do a side quest, get this item from Patches, level up, and go pick up this sword over here, go grab Moonveil, and now Margit is a much easier fight. It's not that it has a easy mode and a hard mode and things like that like other games do, but it does. Souls games in general do allow you to acquire things that can make the game easier for you if you want to use it, or harder for you if you want to. You kind of pick your difficulty in a way. I mean, even the easiest mode of Dark Souls and Elden Ring is still hard, don't get me wrong, but I feel like there's like this like secret wall that people like make the game out to be super hard, and it's not that it's easy, but it is also not. There's ways to make it easier, and I think Elder Scrolls Online could benefit from something like that too, where you do this and this and this, that makes it easier, but if you don't do this and this, then this is going to be much harder for you to do.
Yeah, I think one of the things I remember people mentioning in the past is how champion points is kind of like the root of this imbalance, because like the more you play, the stronger you get, and whilst that feels natural, then it kind of it means that people who are brand new, they will be a hell of a lot weaker. I don't know. Is champion points something that needs to be changed again? I wonder.
We just had a change.
Yeah, I know.
What do you mean by change? Like,
well,
numbers?
I mean, potentially, like we lessen the effect of it. Like, is a champion points too strong? Maybe. But I don't think they are really. I know it's something people have thought about.
Certain combinations can be strong in certain situations. Because I mean, the CP 2.0 was technically a nerf too, because we can only use 4 slottables, whereas in CP 1.0 or whatever it was called, I guess, you could use everything, or you had everything, like passive wise, right?
Yeah, as soon as you got to whatever your CP cap was, you had all of your passives and a lot of the abilities, and now with 2.0 you have to like there's a certain CP level where you have all the passives and you have 4 unlockables, and then all additional champion points are just letting you unlock more slottables, so you don't have to respec to like move your slottables in and out. So I do feel like that was a bit of a nerf compared to the former system, where it's basically at a certain point you just basically had everything, and you had a very specific way you had to build up each tree.
Yeah. But so if that's like nerfing the top level players, is that something that maybe that's the solution? Like bring the power level of the top down to make the Overland feel harder? Like
I see where you're going with. Okay.
Yeah, is it the top end players have got too far away, or is it that the lower level players are not like increasing?
I think it's
know?
both.
It's a mixture of both, but I can also say, having over the last year and a half redone, I'm hardcore casual. I'm only at like 1300 CP, but even when I got to level 50, which then you have 10 CP, and you initially get some champion points, and I forgot to slot my champion points for probably the first like 100 points. There still isn't, even not slotting my champion points when I first got to level 50, because I wasn't thinking about it till I got to champion point 160. And as soon as I got to 160, I'm like, oh, I should probably also put the champion point ability so I'm not just my top end gear. But they're like, it's not like being the difference between being level 50 without slotting my first 160 champion points and doing Overland content, being level 49, or now doing Overland content with 1300 champion points. It all feels just as easy to me. And I don't know that if that's because I know what to do, or if there's just like a certain threshold where all that additional power, maybe it makes you survive better, but I still feel like the content is... There's nothing really super challenging. The reason you do it the first time is because you want to do the lore. You want the storyline and the side quests. Maybe you want the skill points or something, but nothing is particularly challenging on the Overland. The things that I find that are quote-unquote challenges is there's a glitch in Murkmire, and I'm currently grinding up my Murkmire dailies, and one of the bosses there heals himself with totems so much and so often that if I don't do it with a small group of people, there's no way for me to damage enough to get through the fight and like solo him off with like 1 or 2 people. But that's not really hard. That's just a glitch that's existed for a couple of years now, makes him heal a lot more often, but that doesn't make it challenging. It just makes it a longer fight.
Annoying.
Yeah. So is it do the mechanics need to be like inherently more difficult, or do they need to be more like...
Maybe they should occur faster. You know what I mean?
Faster?
Like, yeah. What I mean by that, the sequence should start earlier in the fight. For example, like you pull a boss or a quest boss, right? They do a few light attacks, then they do the dialogue, and then they kind of like try to charge up a heavy attack. But then the mechanics don't actually start until they're like almost already dead. You know what I mean? Maybe the mechanics should just start at the beginning. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
They should have like a bunch of AoEs at the start or something. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I know, Nefes, you've been critical of some of the trials being very unforgiving for tanks especially. So,
yeah,
you know, I think maybe that's the way that they've tried to go with it in the past, is just ramping up the damage, but that's not necessarily the fix for it.
No, it's not. Because that introduces a whole host of issues on both the gameplay and the player, and now, not only as a tank or a healer or a support player are you dealing with the content itself, now you're dealing with the scrutiny of others because they're not experiencing what you're experiencing. Does that make sense? Like, it's just like too much stress put on one role is not exactly a good trial. Like, why should the group wipe if the tank dies necessarily? Like, I guess in some cases, yeah, that's cool, but like in cases like V-Maul or like V-Hoff or even, you know, sometimes even Cloud Rest or BAS, there's always recovery phases, or there's opportunities for recovery. Whereas in the harder DLC trials like Sunspire or Kain's Aegis or Rock Room, it's kind of like, okay, well, the tank set's like 99% of wipe.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
There's definitely some one-shots in like group Overland content. In terms of solo Overland content, there isn't as much punishing stuff. I don't know.
Well, Overland, I think, just needs to be, like, as Loctavian and I have said, like, kind of like a transition point, too, while serving as content itself, but it's just not a good transition point at all. Like, how do you go from Overland to vet dungeons, or even normal dungeons, too? I mean, you know what I mean? Like, Because again, it goes back to the whole social aspect.
Yeah, and like I said, and it was brought up earlier, and like more recent dungeons do a better job of teaching you in a normal mode what you're going to do in a vet mode, what you're going to do in a hard, a hard mode. And I do appreciate it because both Shipwrecked Regret and Corollary actually have enough mechanics. Whereas earlier, the further you go back in dungeons, the more, I mean, you can go back to like even arenas. Normal Maelstrom Arena in no way prepares you for veteran Maelstrom Arena, in my opinion. Whereas like Veteran Hollows, I feel like normal mode actually does prepare you. But how do you prepare people for making the transition from Overland content to the dungeon content? And how do you add content to the game that gets people used to certain mechanics and certain things earlier on? How do you introduce that stuff to people so there's a bit of more challenge to Overland and also a bit more reason for people to learn? Because there's no ramp. Everything at a certain point in Overland, everything is just an even playing field. So there's no ramp, there's no like progress. And again, that's the benefit of being able to do any zone at any time. Comes with the downside of most MMOs would be like, this is a level 1 to 15 and this is 15 to 25 and so on and so up. So how do you add content to the zones that is harder and gets people ready for that? I'm not sure the full answer. Part of me thinks, I look at the current dungeon design with the secret bosses, and if you do Coral Area and you do the secret bosses and you do the main boss, you unlock this extra boss. You add things like that to the existing Overland zones where you can still get everything. You don't have to do it if you don't want to as a casual player, but maybe in even of like a public dungeon, if you do this and this and this, you can access this harder area of the public dungeon. Or if you do this and this, you can access a harder area like near this world boss for like a harder version. Like maybe add ways to access like a hard mode or a veteran version of those things without like creating like veteran zones or separated zones. More like this is an optional thing you can do, because if it's there, people are going to want to do it, and maybe that might get them to engage with it.
Yeah.
Well, I guess the hardest thing about this is how do you
get people to engage?
Oh, no, I mean, like, how do you...
We need better content creators advertising the game.
Oh, okay, buddy. Oh, no. Yeah,
I can spit all day long about how do you get people to listen to go, this is a good idea, and how do you start a movement that makes devs go, oh, this is a ton of work, but it's actually worth.
Oh yeah, I mean, Jesus.
Yeah. Let's make some more change.org petitions to ZeniMax.
Oh my God! Do you see that shit?
Solve everything.
Can we talk about? Do you see that change.org petition for account-wide achievements? That shit's hilarious. No. It's fucking hilarious. It's like,
I just joke about it because every profession and hobby I've ever had, at some point or another, there's some change.org petition.
Oh my lord.
Yeah, if you type ZeniMax into change.org, you'll have a brilliant time.
Oh, I don't get.
I'm not gonna look it up. I'll look it up after the podcast. Trust me.
Okay, so
I'm vastly intrigued. There's a reason I just like sit there and I'll read through Reddit threads. I'll sort the ESO Reddit by controversial sometime just because I'm curious.
Oh God! But yeah, this change.org petition, which it's the worst kind of slacktivism in my opinion. So it basically went over like account-wide achievements. I don't know how you feel about Loctavian account-wide achievements, but like how they're not good because it takes away what players have earned over the years on their different characters. Blah blah blah. The usual argument. And then they said something about like Zos is saying they're doing this for performance, but we don't care about performance. So we should keep
okay, that's the part. Like, I'm like, I like I said, I try to understand things from both sides. I like account-wide achievements. Yeah. I feel I earned the achievement.
Oh, me too, dude.
I feel account-wide achievements are good, and honestly, I play my main to death because I want the big achievement score, because that's the sort of player I am. So account-wide achievements actually get me to play my alts and stuff more. I did hear the arguments, and I understand the valid complaints. I do think people have, people who like that stuff like to have their achievements on different things and stuff like that. But right. But up to the point you get to the like screw performance.
Yeah.
I would rather 500 ping and 5-minute loading zones than this. That's when I'm like, what? What do you? What?
The goal
you take away all my achievements if it meant the performance would be pristine. I'll tell you right now.
The goal for that petition was 100 signatures. I'm pretty sure only has like 13 right.
We'll have 14 when Loctavian sees it.
Oh yeah, true.
Signing it. I hate performance. Nothing's better than a good 10-minute loading screen.
Why do people make these petitions? Like, what's it gonna do? You know what I mean? Like, okay, oh wow, what are people, signed it? Like, what are they supposed to do about that?
Yeah, it's they saw the angry threads. They by the time you make a decision like that, you're making a decision based on what you think the majority of players are gonna like. So yeah, a 13 person, or even if it had 100 people, even if it had 1,000 people, I don't think that would be enough for anybody to go, oh, we made a huge mistake with this account-wide achievement thing.
Yeah. I don't know. I hate online petitions. Remember that Coney 2012 shit? They're like, oh, you know what? Let's sign the petition. Like, let's sign these petition to like stop a genocidal warlord. What's he gonna do? Read it? It's so stupid. But yeah, oh my god.
I like account-wide achievements. I understand why some people are upset by it. To me, it's also what I consider, and maybe I'll make some people mouth this. I think it's a non-issue. If they didn't ever give us account-wide achievements, I'd say I think account-wide achievements are cool. They gave it to us. Some people are gonna say they hate them. I think ultimately, in terms of things that need fixed and issues, account-wide achievements are a non-issue that within 6 months, even the people who are mad about it will have moved on to other things that they're upset about or not care anymore. I hate anybody who's really upset about it. I hate to sound like I'm disregarding you, but I feel like in the grand scheme of things that need fixed or changed, like being mad about account-wide achievements or being upset that they're adding a card game are pretty low. Should be pretty low on your anger list.
I don't necessarily like account-wide achievements, mostly because it removes my incentive to play. Because I've already got everything, so like I'm not interested in score pushing. So why would I bother doing trials again? Like,
for the communal aspect at this point.
Yeah, but my friends don't want to play the.
It's time to find new friends.
Either.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I said I think the people who don't like account-wide achievements, I don't think just because I like them that they're invalid. I just don't think it's as major of an issue. But I get what you're saying. Like it goes back to there needs to be things you can get. I think you could also fix a lot of people's upsetness. Not the people who want to see each character's individual things they got, but I think you can fix the bigger issue of incentives by maybe like if you clear the content on multiple characters, have some way to show that or something that unlocks. I know the main way that Elder Scrolls Online is monetized is through the crown source, so the concept of adding more and more things into the game, tokens and things that let you unlock things to show that you've done it. Like if you're going to do account-wide achievements and I can't show all my different characters have done this achievement, then maybe have a thing that says, hey, once you've cleared this veteran hard mode trifecta on 5 different characters, you get this cool thing. And I know they don't like to give cool things very often because how they monetize the game, but something that at least it might not fully cure the blow, but lessens the blow of it not being able to show on your multiple characters that you've done it like 5 different times with 5 different characters in a way.
Yeah, I mean, it all comes down to incentive, doesn't it? Really, like that's the reason why I was playing on multiple characters, and I like being able to play on. I can now play on. I can do the new trial on not a DK, which will be interesting. Yeah, it's just that replayability is now like lacking for me at least. I don't know. Yeah, it all comes down to incentives, really.
My experience with MMOs is not everybody's, but a lot of people's that I talk to's experiences. People like to show things. So there is, for example, my first experience is World of Warcraft. I was the second ever person on my server to have the Eye of Ragnos, the big hammer back in the day. And I was the first paladin on my server to have a full tier 2 gear set. And I would walk into Ironforge because I was an Alliance player. I would stand on the bridge of Ironforge in my tier 2 with my hand to Ragnos. And this hammer was not even the best weapon I could have, but I would hold it. And sometimes I'd take it out even in like Burning Crusade and stuff just to be like, I did this. In Final Fantasy, they have one of the hardest contents you can do unlocks these really cool golden weapons. Here's the thing. These aren't even best in slot weapons. People still love to do the super hardest content to do it. Then they put that weapon because they have an outfitting system. It's called Glamour, similar to you. So they'll glamour that onto their weapon. They will walk into town with a big golden freaking weapon that shows that they cleared this super hard, amazing dungeon just because they have something that shows they did it. And I think Elder Scrolls could learn from giving more people things to show that they've completed something 5 times or done this or done that, because at the end of the day, the incentive to do things multiple times is there, and most of us like to brag a little bit, have a little braggadocio, and show that we did these really cool things.
Yeah.
And so more things that show that might lessen the blow of like, well, the only thing I really had to show that I cleared this like hard mode trial 5 times is 5 different characters with the title. Maybe say, hey, here's tokens. Once you do it 3 times, you get this. Once you do it 5 times, you get this. And there's incentive to do it on multiple different characters now, because doing it on multiple characters unlocks something else cool to make up for the fact that you don't have that anymore.
Yeah, that would be really nice. I mean, I made sure I got like a trial trifecta on every single character. So, you know, I'd enjoy going, oh, let me just relog to my ult for these pledges. Oh, what, your 5th ult is a Godslayer as well? Yeah, eat dust, mother flipper. Yeah. You know, but now
this
they're
is cool,
all,
because you
they're
did
all
Godslayer and a bunch of stuff,
yeah. I don't know.
Man, we can talk about the lack of reward structure all day.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I was gonna say, I realize I'm transitioning into an entire different.
No, this is good. This is good.
Yeah, I think they're connected for sure. Like, it's a pain point for a lot of people, especially people that, you know, have done all of the stuff and they want to have some reason to do it again.
Oh yeah. How's the title in Overland?
You got like Explorer or whatever.
Yeah, it's my
Hero.
True. I don't really feel like a hero.
Overland. I think it ties into Overland if you add harder content to Overland to incentivize higher end players to come back to do that content and work with other players. If you had incentives for them to do it, so you could add incentives.
True.
If you win, because right now, like you mentioned earlier, I could take off all of my champion points to make it harder. I could take off all my gear and do it to make it harder, but I'm just doing that maybe because I'm the sort of person who wants to challenge myself. But what if handicapping myself that way and reducing my strength? Or what if going and doing this new harder version with a group of people actually had some incentives or rewards? There'd be more reason for me to want to go do that. There would be more reason for me to want to make it harder on myself, because I could show, oh yeah, I went and did this, but I did it the hardest way possible. And that here I can show you that I went and just did all of the Overland stuff the hard way.
Just some recognition. It's just something simple. It's what people want. It's why people play video games. You know, it was like you see all these memes about Call of Duty. Like as soon as you log in, you get 5 like medals or whatever. You know, that's what people want.
I don't know. There's a big difference, I think, between daily just logging in and getting reward and then getting it. You know what I mean? Like I don't know if you saw the Twitter post by Bra. He had a Twitter poll. Should we get mounts every month for ESO? And I'm like, yeah, sure. but you know, we should also look at the actual, you know, in-game reward structure, because it's so wildly inconsistent. I'm pretty sure.
We should get more mounts and skins and things like that through gameplay. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. As somebody who wails in on the crates because I love to open crates, I spend too much on the crates. I'm not buying less crates, and I guarantee you most people who buy crates are not buying less crates. If you put more cool mounts that I can earn in the game. People didn't buy less crates because they could use antiquities to get the Ebonheart mount. You can put more of these things in the game. And the reason I say that is Final Fantasy 14, Lost Ark, many other MMOs I play have a considerable amount of things I can gain of all types in other ways. And I think there's probably a financial person who's goes, if we put too many mounts in the game, people won't buy these gamble crates.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think we need a mount for free. I love seeing that stuff for free on the login incentives, and definitely having those helps people log in. But I think more of that stuff to incentivize people to do content is good. People, I mean, one of the things I really want to do is get good enough that I can go trifecta. I'm blanking on the dungeon. I want to get my beast personality, right? I guess you don't have to trifecta because you can do the achievements on separate runs, but I want to get good enough to do it on hard mode and do it undead and walk out and then put on a beast persona, because then I walk around with this beast personality on. People go, oh cool, that looks cool, and you did this thing.
Exactly.
So more stuff like that I think is good. Or if you do I mean, even dye colors, like you do the 2 recent dungeons on veteran, you get a dye color. You do 2 of the older dungeons on hard mode, or not on hard mode, on veteran, that's how you can buy this cool house. That's how you get Hagrid's High Hall or whatever it's called.
Yeah,
I can't remember the words. But you can buy, yes, you have to buy it with gold, but you can buy this really cool house after you clear these 2 vet dungeons. So like stuff like that, I think incentivizes people to want to do that content and want to learn that content too. So that I do think can bridge the gap. It might not translate to harder Overland content, but like putting stuff like that into dungeons or making harder Overland content and adding stuff like that incentivizes people to do that stuff and want to do it.
Yeah, totally agree.
And want to do it again.
Yeah, that whole thing about if you put more stuff into the game cosmetics wise or rewards wise, and then that'll lead to like a drop off in purchases, that's another like kind of weird, like it's this or that. Like I feel like there's always a middle ground here that no one ever talks about. You know what I mean? Like God. Also, like when we talk about rewards, people get sidetracked too on like this or that. Like, oh, if we put more rewards, where do you put them? Right? People are hung up on this a lot. Like, do you put them in the trials only, or do you put them in, you know, dungeons? But I think
everywhere.
Exactly. That's my opinion.
Just do it
That's
everywhere.
my personal statement. Why not?
Yes.
Why are you limiting rewards? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If I clear, if there's this brand new trial and I clear that, and me and my group go in and we do it on hard mode trifecta, and we all get this skin that shows that we did it on hard mode trifecta, that's cool. Meanwhile, that's the cool skin. Meanwhile, in that same content that you've introduced this cool Overland content, you do that, you get a different cool skin. And if you do this PvP thing, you get a cool skin. And yes, if you do everything, you get all these skins, but if you don't do one thing, you don't get that skin. But yeah, if you just put it everywhere, then you don't have to be like, who gets it? Because it doesn't need to be who gets it. You just make sure, just have it for everybody.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you're a completionist, you can do everything and get everything. But if you're not, you can still get cool things without having to do this aspect or that aspect.
Yeah, I think World of Warcraft
sure.
has got fishing mounts, hasn't it? It's got like the water striders and turtles and shit. So yeah, why not?
I just don't get why people always want to limit shit. You know, like just have something for everybody. Why does everyone need to have their own thing? You know what I mean? Like, of course, there's gonna be gradients or like tiers, right? But still, you need something somewhere for everybody.
I think it comes down to, and I think this is the going back. This does go back to the Overland stuff because it goes back to the division of people. I think the game has fragmented in a way where when something's introduced to one area of the game, people go, the devs took time away from my area of the game. So when they say there's this card game coming, someone like me who likes horizontal content, I like antiquities. Yeah, if the card game is like Gwent in any way, I love doing that. But I also want trials. But when people hear card game, they think, does that mean they're doing less trial stuff?
Right.
And if you're a PvP player, you're like, well, there's another year in the books with nothing new for PvP. And I think that's the problem, is there's that divide, right? There's like,
for sure.
And it's so fragmented, and I think
it's silly.
They need to fix that, so when something's added to one area, people don't go, oh, they got something, that means I didn't.
But does that come down to communication, maybe, from ZeniMax on them telling us what they're working on? You know?
I think it does, because when they were put into a situation, I won't get into why they were, but when they put into a situation where they actually had to at least put out a more detailed roadmap than they had before. And again, it's still wait till 2023, but there is an actual, like, this is why, and this is what we're working on, this is what we're doing. That was the most information I'm not even a PvPer, and I can tell you is the most information I've ever seen in terms of like that. More posts like that, I think, are good. If you're putting something in the game, be transparent about the other things you're working on or why you're doing certain things. And I know there's a certain line that if you say too much, people expect certain things and can cause issues. But there's also a line that if you don't say anything, people are just going to assume the worst and go, they're doing this because of this, because all I have is speculation. Yeah. And I'm going to sit there in like an echo chamber with other people who agree with me. We're all going to get mad because we all assume this is why.
Yeah.
So I think communication could also help make people understand why certain choices are being made.
Yeah. Going back to the whole, like, how people feel like, you know, that their stuff is being taken away or maybe not being focused on. You remember Kyle Dempster Studios?
Yes.
Anyone? Do you remember him, Ollie? Do you remember?
I don't.
You don't? Okay, so there was this guy who was on the ESOU stream team.
Oh God, where's this going?
No, hold on.
There's a million things you could say about
this. Like, long story short, Okay, he got removed because, well, he got involved in some, doxing stuff, But that's not the point here. But this he was brought on as a what was that shit they did in 2020, Las Vegas? Wait, did they do that in 2020?
You've lost.
Or was it 2019? It was like it was a global preview event, right, in Las Vegas.
Oh.
Was that
yes.
elsewhere or Greymore? Greymore, right?
I don't know.
What was it? Okay, anyway, there was this whole thing, global preview event. I'm pretty sure it's for Greymore because Antiquities are coming out. And he was brought up on stage with Gina and the rest of them, right? And this is televised on their Bethesda channel and Twitch streams, right? And one of the questions he asked was, is the vet Harmo gonna have a mount? And I think
shit, I remember that.
Yeah, you remember that, right? And that illustrates, I think, this kind of thing where, and he's a casual player, right? And he kind of represented the more casual players on that stage, where like they want the mount or they want something similar to it, but when they're told, yeah, is vet Harmo or Kind's Aegis or whatever gonna have a mount, and they were told, yeah, and he also asked a follow-up question like, can we get it any other way? You know what I mean? That kind of goes back to the whole rewards thing, like being so divisive, I think. I don't know. It's just something interesting to not we're bringing it up. I think it's something interesting to look back on.
If they just reskinned it and made it available in somewhere else, then I think that would satisfy people. Like you get the blue dragon mount from this dungeon, or you get a red dragon mount from fishing, or the green dragon mount from the dungeon. That's what they did in World of Warcraft. It's like just reskin shit and put it in different types of content. That'd be fine.
I think, they already reskinned things. I think that would be fine. There just needs to be more things. Like, they incentivize the events, right? We do the events and we can earn mounts and skins and stuff. It used to be just Indrix, and they evolved that to more, but it needs to, but that again incentivizes people getting on just during the events. There just needs to be more stuff for doing the content.
Yeah, exactly.
Most of the incentives are, like Deficit mentioned with daily login rewards, there's like more incentive for login rewards or incentives to go hard during an event versus just like, where's my incentive? Just do content.
Right.
Where's my incentive to PvP, to trial, to do overland content? There just needs to be more of that makes people do it. Like, Antiquities has some badish aspects to it, but like but hunting down an Ebonheart wolf mount was cool. It gave me incentive to go do Antiquities, level up my Antiquities, and track down 17 different leads. So I got this mount, and I actually was like, cool, it's an actually decent, cool looking mount I can get just by doing a thing. Same with like the Lunar Hall house and elsewhere, where you get the house by completing the zones and doing the dungeons. Stuff like that's good, I think, and more of it for all different aspects of the game.
Oh yeah. What do you guys think about? You guys brought up information or like roadmaps and stuff, but like, do you guys think they would benefit from giving us a roadmap of content or like quality of life features? I think a lot of people were like a little upset over the sticker book announcement, because it's like they could have announced it maybe 6 months ago or like 3 months ago, right? And then people could have like prepared for it. Or do you guys think that's not good?
No, I think a roadmap would be good. I think here's the even better roadmap, which is we're introducing the sticker book. This is why we're introducing the sticker book. We feel like this adds this thing, and these are a lot of cool things for you to get these collections and be able to, another use for your transmute stones. We're gonna up your transmute stones, so this is like a way to get that gear, which is really cool because maybe it's a set that an Overland set or a dungeon set that's difficult to get or expensive to buy if it's an Overland set. And I thought it was cool, but it came kind of out of nowhere. But honestly, roadmap and go, we can't promise this next feature, but if the sticker book works, the sticker book's actually a step towards a goal we have. Can we achieve the goal? We don't know, but our goal is to do curated drops from bosses, so you don't have to run 200 times to get your Medusa staff. And if you told people that ahead of time, one, they could have prepared for the sticker book, and two, people probably would have been more excited for the sticker book, knowing that sticker book, if it worked, and they can be honest and say, this is not guaranteed, if it worked, could lead to this thing. Because I don't think, maybe some people were, but I don't think most people were upset by curated drops, except for maybe the type of person who's like, I had it hard, so everyone has.
Oh
to have
yeah,
it
oh
hard.
fuck that shit. Yeah, fuck
Other
that
than
shit.
that, other than that person, I think most people were like, "Oh, this is actually a good thing."
I'm a little bit salty that I like ran back through so many veteran trials and open chests to try and get the.
Hey man, it
gear.
took me like 300 plus just to get a VMA Inferno, and that wasn't even from the clears because those were guaranteed drops, man. You know.
Sometimes I like to tell the tale of back in the day of going into veteran Maelstrom Arena because you had to do veteran to get the weapon.
Right.
But this was before. But that came out with Rothgar, and that was before Clockwork City. So not if you were lucky enough that the item you were looking for dropped. If it didn't drop, traded. You just had to keep running it.
Sharpened Maelstrom Inferno. Yeah, like. Oh god, those are the days.
But yeah,
those were the uphills in snow both ways to school days. But
yeah.
I have the suspicion they don't do these roadmaps or like whatever, like early announcements, because a large part, I think, of their marketing is geared towards hype. You know, hype building.
Oh.
You think they lose? You think they would lose out on a lot of that hype during those ESO live streams if they had announced those things earlier? You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
I don't think they lose out on the hype because when I walk away from the live streams and I watch it with my community or I watch it with someone else's community and people are chatting afterwards, most of the quality of life things maybe somebody's like, hey, it's cool that they're doing this thing with sky shards where you can see them when you walk around the map. That's really cool for console players, and then that's it. People aren't usually, the thing from the hype is not they're pumping their fist there. It's not usually like sticker books, so like announcing some of those features ahead of time might maintain hype for longer, if anything, because a lot of those features they could roadmap out and they're still going to get the hype of their big announcements. I feel.
I don't know. I feel like they've had this weird relationship with marketing or hype building since 2017. They made all the players who go to Morrowind PTS, quote unquote, stay under an NDA. It's like the weirdest NDA. Yeah.
I was console then, so there no PTS.
Okay. So anyone who went to PTS,
we had our username plastered all over us.
Yeah. So if we leaked something or like screenshots or whatever, they would know. Yeah, exactly. They would know which player to ban. And I'm just like, but bro, you sent like fucking PTS invites to banned accounts too. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, I don't know. They're just weird thing with hype and like not releasing information until like the moment, right? Like kind of like they looked at Steve Jobs compilations on YouTube and they're like, you know what? That's our model. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, because I don't know. It's really weird. I would prefer like an earlier announcement, but I get why they do it. I guess kind of. I don't know.
I can get coming from the tech industry before I was doing streaming and event industries before that. I understand why certain things work the way they work. It doesn't mean that those are the correct way that things should work. In fact, like my job for tech companies used to be doing brand and reputation development, which was a lot of looking at what people said in the community and on reviews and on this and that, comparing them to competitors and going, and my job was to go, everybody does this thing like this and nobody likes this when everybody does this. So you should do this differently. And I think, honestly, they have a very set way of doing things, but it might need to be re-examined because I do feel like the hype model is not good. And I feel like the modern player, especially with the new MMO boom, right? WoW had big scandals and people finally discovered Final Fantasy and people rediscovered or discovered ESO and Lost Ark blew up and people got hyped over New World, but that kind of shit the bed. And but there's still the point is there's a lot of new MMOs coming, MMOs that have been around all trying different things. And now is the time to kind of break that out of that mold because people nowadays know a lot more. They look up a lot more information. They want more information and roadmaps give, I would trade hype for confidence. A roadmap would give me confidence in why I'm doing something. Your hybrid, somebody in chat had mentioned hybridization and where that's going. And you had mentioned like a sticker book. I would rather know why we are going in a direction and what that direction is and have confidence. I trust a game that's giving me confidence more than one that hypes me up. And you can still have your hype reveals for High Isle and it's this cool new zone and Bretons and look at this cool new dungeon and still have all of that and still have roadmapped out the quality of life and other features because that roadmap makes me go, oh, you're not just throwing something new at me every 3 months or throwing a like dart at a dartboard, see what sticks. you have a plan here. That gives me confidence, and I want to see this plan through with you because you've told me what it is. So yeah, I think there's something to be said about roadmaps giving confidence, and confidence creating a longer term player than hype bringing a rush of people back who then rush back out, who rush back in at the next hype thing.
I think this is the first time I've heard someone put it so well. Like, yeah. Okay, Ollie. yeah. Fuck.
Yeah, that's very good.
That was very good.
Put it on a t-shirt, ship it.
That's gonna be okay. That's gonna be quite a long t-shirt.
Or like a night dress or something. It'd be great.
But yeah, because, and I know they have a plan because you hear people like, and they don't have to give away story beats, but if they have like 2 years of story beats planned out, they have quality of life things planned out. Again, a roadmap of quality of life. Because the story is what's going to hype people. Here's what a lot of people walk away from during the hype events. Awesome, a new island, prison island, awesome Breton island. We're getting Breton lore. Some people are hyped about a card deck. Some people are mad about a card deck. Honestly, that's good that people are mad about it because then there's people talking about it on both sides, and that's good too. But yeah, you don't need to get the quality of life lost in the shuffle. Just give us that roadmap. Go this. We know that you have this issue with these housing issues, and we know you're concerned about the hybridization. We know that PvP's been a mess for a while. Here is what we are doing and what we're looking at. And yes, it's the long-term plan, but these are our goals. And to get here, we're going to have to do these things and hope they work. But this is what we plan to do versus every new patch going, oh, this is what they're trying without knowing like what the thought process is. Because I guarantee you as a large game development studio, they're not just trying new things every 3 months. They have a plan of action, and sharing some of that with us would help.
Yeah, for sure. But that's what we think. Maybe they are just like making random shit.
I guess there's a benefit of the doubt there. I guess.
Sometimes they do. I mean, objectively speaking, look at Scalebreaker.
Sometimes.
Right? They went from buffing the shit out of dots to nerfing the shit out of dots. You know what I mean? It's like this wild pendulum swing.
I think sometimes they are just flipping dials. A little
Yeah. I agree with you though. Like they certainly have a plan.
Just tell me why you're flipping the dials.
Exactly.
Even if it's like even if the roadmap's like, we need to find balance here, and we're not 100% how to do it. But over the next few patches, we're going to try ramping this up. We might pull it back. It's going to be a little chaotic for 6 months while we change things. There's still a confidence there to know, oh, they're going to be fucking with things, but they let me know.
Right.
I think why we're doing this.
Yeah. I think that's infinitely far better than what we have now, where people are kind of guessing where they're going or like unsure what to invest in every 3 months, and that kind of builds into the whole change fatigue or fatigue over like all these combat changes or game changes. Yeah,
there is definitely a fatigue to all that, and also people, like I said, get in the echo chambers, they talk and they make assumption as to why things are happening, but then they state it like fact, because then people, I'll eventually talk to people who are like, this is why they're doing it. I'm like, well, where did you hear that from? And I think you don't want to promote an environment where, people are talking about why they think it is to the point that they believe that is fact. Because then even if you come out and say that's not what's going on, now you have to fight back against the fact that people spent months trying to figure it out and they've come to a conclusion that might not be the correct one.
Yeah. But have account-wide achievements actually improved performance? I don't think they have.
I mean, PCNA. What do you think about PCNA right now? Man, it is getting...
I think it's about time that you people were brought down a level. We've been having that on EU for years. Back in my day, we couldn't, patch day. I was like, okay, fine, I'll carry on working for at least another 3 days before I take a day off because it's not going to be ready yet. So,
yeah.
You had it easy, Nefes.
Okay, buddy. I think a lot of people are like kind of memey on it because account-wide achievements are supposed to like improve performance, right? But then PCNA goes to shit. But that apparently, like according to their explanation, I don't know if you guys read the post-mortem for update 33 that they put out. It was pretty transparent, in my opinion, and I think I love the communication that they did in this instance, and hopefully they keep it up, and not just for this one instance. But like they explained like how it had nothing to do with the game itself, but like with the server hardware. Like they had like something fail or something, or like not work, and they had to replace it temporarily. So I don't know what's going on with the PCNA, but a lot of people are not.
And that makes and people are like, they always blame it on the server. They always blame it on the server architecture. They always blame it on everything being interwound with the server. But the truth is, they developed the game for 7 to 8 years, and the game is about 8 years old, and it's still running on like 16-year-old server architecture that's been cobbled together to keep up with things. So I think we're just experiencing the age and wear and tear of
For sure.
building more and more stuff on old architecture and trying to keep old architecture up to date, which sucks because eventually they're going to have to fully rip through that and revamp it, one would think, to keep the game going.
I think the game engine's like 15 years old too, or something insane.
Yeah.
Like it's
because they're still on the same engine they started developing it on, so they're still running on the same engine. Yeah, so if you had 7 years of development to 8 years of play, 15.
Jesus.
I mean, the game still looks nice, but yeah, it's just the performance, isn't it, really?
Well, do you guys read the dev interviews that they do with these like gaming websites and stuff like that? It's actually quite enlightening, even like these video interviews.
I try to read. I try to read them when they put out interviews and stuff like that because it's a way to glean more information about what's going on. Yeah,
there's so much more than what players understand about like all that, like from server work to game design. It's kind of insane, actually. I don't know why they just don't say this to the players either. Why do you have to go? Why do I have to go through the back channels of the gaming website to like, you know what I mean? Just tell us. Yeah.
I get a distinct feeling if you there's somewhere up the line there's somebody saying you're not allowed to say this, because here's the thing is the people who eat the most crow and suffer the most blame for the game going bad are Rich and Gina and the dev team, and I guarantee you the financial decision on what is monetized and not monetized and how much money that those devs are allowed and how many devs they're allowed to hire and how much they're allowed to focus on these things are being made by a different team of people who oversee finances. From my experience in tech work, this is all I don't work there. I don't know that this is true, but my experience in tech and my background tells me there's usually the people taking the blame would gladly hire 50 more devs to overhaul everything. But somebody's making a monetary decision saying, no, I prioritize here. We're not giving you the money for all that.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe like they could tell all this to players, like, or not like tell them, but like what they tell to the gaming journalists to players. I don't know. I think it'll be
it's out there anyway, so maybe pass that to the players.
Exactly. Yeah, and as one of the technical class reps, I feel like I've had the privilege of kind of seeing how complex it actually is. Like before, they brought me on, I was like, I think very heavily skeptical and also cynical, like like the devs and stuff. But then once I got to like these discussions and stuff like that we have under the NDA, it's like, okay, now I understand. Now I'm like, like how much more complicated it is. And then when I was working on the ESOU website, or rather seeing what Anton was doing with the ESOU website, I was like, man, this is just one website. There's so many bugs and stuff to fix. But then, you know what I mean? I'm just like, for a game too, like I can't imagine the fucking like brain power or like the fucking complexity with that. I just can't, Yeah,
the average player, and the average player doesn't need to understand the whole complexity of it. The average player sees an area suffering and goes, this area is suffering because they hate this area. But the truth is, again, since everything is so tangled the way servers work, I do think there could be some benefit from being like, this is what's going on. Again, I feel like they did that. They were put in a position where I think they felt like they had to do that, but they did that with PvP, explaining what they've tried, explaining why they're going to have to do what they're going to do, explaining why it was going to take till early 2023. And I think, that doesn't make everybody happy, but at least it gave people who read it an understanding that there's something happening. So yeah, if they're telling tech journals, the information's out there, share it with the players. So the players who don't care just won't read that section, but the players who want to know more can read it. And I think more people might understand what's going on. And I think understanding, again, goes back to building a confidence in the company that they are trying to go in the direction that's best for the player base.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I don't know. Are these gaming journals paying for the exclusivity? Maybe could that be part of it?
Maybe.
I don't know.
I don't know how the whole gaming industry works, and on
I
part
don't
of
know
journalism.
Journalism, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, once it gets posted somewhere, it usually gets recycled like a billion times anyway. So I can't imagine that.
I mean, assuming it's
So-
like regular journalists, or not, or non-gaming journalists rather, I should say, they probably sometimes do pay for an opportunity for an interview or something. Also depends on the platform too, right? Like there's a difference between a random MMO website that not everybody reads versus Polygon or like IGN. It's, you know. But yeah.
Yeah.
You mentioned on like when we were having that very limited discussion on Twitter, something about like increasing disdain towards like horizontal progression and stuff like that. Like what did you mean by that? I was curious. I meant to ask
I
earlier.
already touched on it earlier because there isn't a focus on making Overland content harder, and all they add is they add 4 dungeons on trial basically every year.
Right.
What I meant is like the card game, whether it's going to end up being good or bad, whether it's just going to be something that everybody hates or it's going to be something that a huge player base loves. The minute they announced the card game, it felt like a very large player base, especially a player base who does the more hard content. At least a portion of it felt attacked by the fact that that was part of the presentation. Like, oh, here they go. Now they're going to start, and I mentioned it earlier, they're going to start ignoring
Right. I see
harder
what
content,
you
a
mean.
harder
Okay.
player because they're adding this. And that's what I mean by like, I feel like there's like this attack on horizontal content. This, to me, I see horizontal content as a good thing. I see other MMOs who've added it as a good thing, because if you look at Final Fantasy with like the Golden Saucer, you look at even Lost Ark on the Korean servers with the horizontal content they're adding, there's a certain livelihood you add and way you keep players around when they get tired of one content by having like things like card games and casinos and all these sorts of things that is good. And what I mean by the attack is it's the same way, like I don't feel like casual players, a huge group of casual players generally hate meta and hate the like rating players. I don't think the majority of rating players hate horizontal content, but I feel like the divide is there where they announced a lot of casual content. Does this mean I'm not getting my end game content? And I think that's I can't think of a lot of reasons why people would have been so upset, and there would have been so many negative posts, more than even normal and stuff like that with that. And I saw the same thing, honestly. There's a similar thing kind of with Antiquities. It was just I think it's the presentation kind of focused on this new thing, and it made people feel like, oh, maybe they're not putting the same level, because they didn't really talk a lot about the new trial or any new end game stuff. And so I think the divide is not that they're doing horizontal content, they're doing end game content. It's people are so divided when they focus on one thing, other groups feel like, oh, are they not going to be focusing on this anymore? And that's a worry.
Yeah. And that's where the communication comes in as well, isn't it?
It honestly shocked me how many people, how large the group of people upset by them announcing a card game was, whether it was good or bad. 'Cause to me, it was like, oh, this is a cool new feature. It might be interesting. It might be shit, but like, I didn't expect the level of like anger I saw towards. I'm like, what is it? So I spent a lot of time asking people, trying to uncover like, why are you? I legitimately want to know why does this make you mad? And a lot of people who at least were willing to talk to me about it did say, well, that's what they're doing. They're going to do a card game, buy end game content, one step closer to not having end game content. And so there was a legitimate fear out there that this was a step towards even more casual content and even less end game content. And so I don't think that was everybody who was mad, but at least some people I spoke to, that seemed to be like the concern.
I can see that. The players I know, and at least from the comments too, from other endgame raiders I've read, is that they're not really mad about the card game. They just kind of think it's kind of funny, you know what I mean? Because like an expansion is the biggest thing for them, right? For ZOS, and it's like, well, when your main focus is a card game compared to all the previous stuff in the past, it's kind of funny, you know. you know what I mean? But I get it.
That.
Yeah, and I think there's other worries on people's minds, like performance,
Right,
lack
true.
of rewards.
Adding a whole new giant system to the game when the game isn't performing.
Yeah. I personally have always wanted a card game or like some kind of mini games in ESO where you can go to a tavern and play with players. You know what I mean? Something that makes you
something to do between the thing that you're primarily doing.
Exactly,
right?
like to immerse yourself. I've always wanted. I'm actually looking forward to it. But my issue with how like they handled the messaging of it was also like they started talking the card game during that global preview event, whatever it's called. And they were like, we're gonna have. There's two things I don't like about it. One thing they said was, we're gonna make sure that more experienced players or people who playing the game longer don't have an advantage over players who are starting the game.
Oh yeah, we can get into the ins and outs of things I don't like about.
Yeah, and I'm just like, why are they always so concerned? And you can see this everywhere. It's in the game. With the leaderboards, like everyone's a winner. They don't want losers. They want everyone to be a winner. And I'm just like, I mean, sure, that's cool and all for some things, but like, yeah, it's just like they seem so afraid of that, like winner-loser dynamic, which is like, I don't know, man. Like, if I've been playing the game longer, I should have slightly better deck, right? At least. But now you're mixing my deck with this random player, right? Like, what's gonna happen? Like two troll decks mixing with each other.
It's the casuals that don't have enough time to play the game because they're busy working. They're the ones that have the money, that buy the crown crates, that buy all the shit that funds the game. So you gotta listen to them.
And the second problem I have with it was like the messaging part, where they were like describing like why you should be playing a card game. Oh, it's gonna have rewards. You can get transmutes. We know you guys love transmutes. That's exactly what they said. We know you guys love transmutes. You can get items and stuff like that.
We want to get into the details of the card game. Card game should have its own incentive. Back to everything should have incentives. It should have its own incentives. I'm going to tell you my least favorite part, the thing I hate most about Antiquities.
Okay.
They should have introduced mythics to the game, and they should not have attached them to the Antiquity system. As somebody who likes Antiquities, and I'm afraid they're going to do something similar with the card game, and I feel it builds up disdain towards new systems when you force... If there is a mythic that I need to be viable for this content that I have to get, and I have to get it by doing content unrelated to the thing I need it for. And I don't like that system.
You have to go fish in Artaeum for your Thracian Stranglers.
It's possibly going to make me frustrated at the system and frustrated at them adding new systems, because I now have to, like, in Antiquities is relatively simple. Card game might be a lot more complex. I don't know if that they're going to attach mythics to it, but like, imagine you have to get like dozens of hours deep into a card game to get an item that is becoming meta and needed for like the hardest trial content. That's going to make people... So there's valid concerns about it, and and I get what's being said is like the game's not fully stable and you're packing in new systems. That is a valid concern. And also, again, with no roadmap and other things, and the focus of the reveal being on the card game, people are like, where's the mention of like
anything else?
Because the mention of the trial was like, they obviously the dungeons are coming out, and like, and don't worry, it'll have a trial like all expansions do. So I get where the concerns, as much as I'm optimistic and hoping they implement the card game in a way that's fun, and it does have things that concern me, because the thing concerned me too about the mixing decks and the whole like, it doesn't matter how deep I get into it. Like, it's gonna have a leaderboard, but it also doesn't matter if I get deep into it, because. But
it's just so weird. Yeah. I mean, they're also introducing all these incentives and rewards for this new system, but they're not doing anything about the old systems. that's my gripe with it too, right? Like, what's going on here? I
mean, one thing you said, the card game is going to have these incentive stuff. In addition to that, we're adding the incentives to this and that, and
yeah, dude.
Yeah. I feel like they're never catching up with themselves. Like, they're releasing more content than content they're fixing.
I'd be fine with 1 year of no content, 2 years even, if they, you know what I mean?
To let them catch up.
Yeah.
I think they're still worried about bringing in new players or maintaining players and things like that. They're not thinking about it. But honestly, if they're just like, we're taking a year off of new story and chapter content because we're going to add more difficult content to the Overland, and to add that content, we're going to first need to like fix up the server some, and we're going to go back through and we're going to update some of the textures, and we're going to like stabilize things in PvP. I would also be fine with it. I think a lot of people in the game would be fine with it, but I think I don't know. Maybe there's a fear that if they're not releasing new content, they're not bringing players in, or players will just leave. But I think anybody who's played ESO for a while would be fine with just a year of fixing things up, especially if that year came with a roadmap and we saw like quality of life changes and server fixes and things like that. I think we could all get behind a better game that they could build better content on top of.
Going back to the whole new system thing, isn't this what they call in like game development terms a parasitic design or like parasitic system? That make like there's like videos on this subject.
So there's parasitic systems and there's symbiotic system. A parasitic system, the best way to say it is most systems in World of Warcraft are parasitic. They introduce a system with a new expansion. You do the system for the expansion. You put a time gate the shit out of it. You put a ton of hours into it, and then as soon as the next expansion comes out, you never ever use that system again. A symbiotic system is honestly, Antiquities is a good example of a symbiotic system. Once you have Antiquities, all the former content has stuff I can dig up. Anything new they release is going to have things I can dig up. So it's not just Antiquities that are only in Western Skyrim and the Reach. It added if I have to have that content to get Antiquities, but once I have it, every zone in the game that existed before has the Antiquities content, and every new thing has it. That's a symbiotic system. So yeah, a parasitic system is a system that only exists for the sake of the expansion or for a limited time and then is never used again, whereas a symbiotic system is one that is added that is usable on older content and content past the actual expansion itself.
Okay, like World of Warcraft player housing, it was useful for a year.
So I guess ESO systems are like kind of more leaning towards symbiotic, I guess.
Yeah, I can't think of many. Would there be an example of a parasitic system in ESO?
ESO is relatively good. I could rack my brain. I'm sure there is. ESO is surprisingly, and that's something that I've actually praised it on, of not introducing a lot of parasitic systems. Sometimes they introduce systems that are not going to be used by everybody or not the most used systems, but for the most part, they don't introduce something that never gets used again. Or only gets used for one expansion. They've been fairly
Battlegrounds. There we go.
decent about that. I mean, I was about to say the closest to a parasitic system is the fact that there hasn't been new PvP content since year 1, right?
Yeah.
Year two. Morrowind's year 2, isn't it?
Morrowind's year 3.
Okay.
Year 3,
2016.
2017.
Either way, that's when they added Battlegrounds. I know they added new stuff here and there, but like, it was like Cyrodiil and IC and Battlegrounds, and then
Volendrung, and then you can repair bridges.
Yeah,
and they added
a few things. Yeah,
and they added flags at towns. Come on, Loctavian, this is all prime content. This.
Oh man, God, do you PvP, Loctavian, or you just like?
I never PvP'd back on console. It's just something I didn't ever get into. However, befriending PvP streamers and watching PvP streamers, I've started PvPing a little bit. I PvP quite a bit with the last event. I've been gearing up and getting sets put together to PvP on one of my alts. So I have started recently PvPing. It wasn't something I did until recently. I kind of feel like I missed out though, because I'm not PvPing, especially back in the day when it was at its best. But because it's a lot more fun than I honestly gave it credit for being. I assumed that it was because it was removed into its own section in Cyrodiil. I just never gave Cyrodiil a chance, and that's fully on me. That was just me being like, oh, that's probably their Alterac Valley. It was probably cool once upon a time, but no one does it anymore. And that was just my short-sightedness on it. I admit. I actually had a lot of fun when I was doing PvP though recently.
Yeah, fair enough.
When it's not lagging. Good God. Yeah.
See, I'm new to PvP, so I don't know. So it can only get better for me, and I'll be like, wow, that's even PvP's even cooler than I thought. Because I want to. I don't. Perspective. I'm not experienced enough to know the difference. So I guess I get a little bit of a blessing with it.
Yeah. God. Oh dear.
Man.
But, oh no, but yeah, I hope things get fixed up for it. I think ESO is unique in that it does have a really solid PvP community, one that is obviously very frustrated. Many have left, and some come back because the games they go to don't quite scratch that itch. But obviously ESO has something to have time after time frustrating situations with their PvP not getting fixes, still have such a large community just hanging out with the hopes it will be, which means there's something special there that should be embraced, because so many games are trying to incorporate PvP in a meaningful way and failing, that if they did focus on it and fix it, like, that's a bigger selling point than I think they even give it credit for, because man, it's a hard thing to get a dedicated PvP base. They'll stick with it, and it, like I said, if it gets good, it's just going to bring people back and get more people into it.
Yeah,
because most MMOs just have battlegrounds nowadays, or if they implement world PvP, they do it in a poor way.
Lost Ark has these PvP islands, right?
Yeah, but the true heart, as somebody who loves PvP in Lost Ark, they haven't introduced guild versus guild yet. Guild versus guild is cool, but they're also PvP islands. Basically, you're sitting on there for a day, for a period of time, racking up as many kills and points as you can for your guild, and that's unique and fun. The true heart of PvP in Lost Ark that people love, though, is a ranked arena PvP is where it's at. Lost Ark PvP in arena, though, is second to none. It's some of the funnest PvP I've ever done.
Okay.
I adore the Lost Ark arena PvP, and I adore pushing myself as a bard during ranked. Because it's fast, it's quick, you're in, you're out. Like, it does not take a lot to get going with it, and it's, you can just queue up and do it and then get back to what you're doing, and I think there's something to be said about that. But Lost Ark's islands are fun, and the guild versus guild stuff is fun, but the true heart of PvP in Lost Ark is still just 3v3 arena stuff.
Right.
yeah.
I went to this one little island in Lost Ark for a quest, and then it's like, the size of the island is so small. It's like 2 squares across on your screen, like really, really small, and there's like 100 player. And I realized, oh, this is PvP island, and it's like, no, there's like literally no room to walk around. This is me and this guy on like this little sand pile in the middle of the ocean.
I know where you're at.
Oh, okay, you know. And this guy's just standing there, and I was like, oh, I can.
And a chest.
Yeah.
The
that
island's full of chest spawns every so often. There's only a couple of you on the island, and you basically have to beat the other person until they're frustrated enough to leave so you can open the chest.
Yeah, but this guy wasn't attacking me. I was like so curious. I'm like, oh man, maybe I should kill him.
Sometimes some people on that island you'll experience friendly ways where people will let you open the chest, and you'll just take turns opening the chest.
Yeah.
But then I'll show up at the island, and I will start slamming my giant sword around and dying and living until either I have spent too much time, I feel there, or they leave.
Yeah.
It's a PvP island. I do not feel bad for this approach.
But yeah, I was wondering why he wasn't attacking. I was like, man, maybe I should kill him.
Because he was hoping you would rotate opening the chest with him.
True.
Well,
actually, I was like, maybe I should kill him. You know what I mean? But then Chad was like, oh, check his eye level, right? I checked his eye level. He's like, this guy's 1400. And I'm like, okay, I'm out.
You encountered a beached whale on that island, yeah.
I'm like eye level like 500 or something. I'm like, I'm out, dude. So yeah, thanks for the chest, bye. Oh man. Well, yeah. You guys want to talk about anything else? Oh, yeah, I'm down to talk about anything, really.
One other thing about PvP that I think would be cool.
Okay.
I'm going to take it right from Lost Ark, because these are things that honestly, when I had Payne on my podcast last year, I'm mainly taking a lot of these from him, but they're good ideas. One, something you can do in Lost Ark is you can organize tournaments. You can go to the PvP thing. You can't do it right now, but eventually there's a feature I can just set up a tournament. So people do dueling tournaments in ESO, and they have to self-organize them, but the game facilitates that on the games, and I can set up tournaments. I can have a key, so you have to know the key to be able to be part of my tournament, or I can do open tournaments. As far as PvP goes, the other thing that Lost Ark does, for better or worse, is the guild versus guild stuff, and I think things they could add to PvP, obviously fixing up Cyrodiil is their priority and their primary thing. Something that could add a lot to PvP is if I had a guild and someone else had a guild, and we're talking about how people don't really do stuff in guilds, but I could challenge your guild, and we could send our people, and you could send your people, and we could do basically a battleground guild versus guild, and actually like queue up in battlegrounds, but not as part of the battleground system, but as a guild versus guild thing. I think those things would add a lot to the game. Just thinking of things that would get more people engaged with PvP, guild versus guild, being able to set up tournaments. There's a lot of things you could add that let there be more chosen engagement, even outside of just queuing up for a battleground or going into Cyrodiil, that I think could really add new life to the PvP experience while also focusing on fixing up Cyrodiil, because it seems like the reason PvP doesn't get new cool things and they don't add to it is because of this kind of almost mantra of until Cyrodiil's fixed, you get nothing else.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely increasing the way that people can engage with each other. Like all these systems, like the group finder, people hate that because they say it's always broken. Fixing those things to make playing together easier, make it better for everyone.
Oh, I'm new to PvP, so Fluxy in your chat said that guilds can claim keeps and Cyrodiil just add more benefits to holding those. See, I'm new to PvP, so I didn't know that. Yeah, add more benefits to that. Encourage that more. But
Yeah.
I guess that just goes back to incentives. I just I think PvP is really cool, and I think there's people like me who, with a little incentive to have checked it out earlier, I would have really benefited, because I didn't not check it out because I was worried about toxicity. I wasn't worried about getting teabagged on the battlefield. I just never felt compelled. The only time that there was any compulsion to do it was during an event, and from getting more into PvP, to me it seems like one of the worst times to get into PvP if you're new to it is during a mid-year mayhem, to be honest.
Yeah.
Just because like different personalities running rampant.
Oh yeah.
And then every mid-year mayhem, every single thread I see on a non-PvPer end is, when are you gonna make Cyrodiil PvE? And that's like the absolute worst thing that could ever happen to this game. I'm sorry, as somebody who predominantly has PvE my entire career, the worst thing I think you could ever do is make Cyrodiil and IC have PvE versions. Back to that whole division of players thing.
Fuck that. It's either you do it or you don't, honestly.
Yeah.
What is this question? Am I the Yakuza triad? I know people who are. What the fuck? Anyway, we can talk about anything at this point.
Do we want to get some questions from?
Whoa, you don't want to talk about anything, Ollie, or Loctavian? Anything? We can talk about anything. Absolutely anything. It doesn't have to be about ESO for a little bit, unless you guys are pressed for time.
I'm not super pressed for time right now.
Okay. Like 10 minutes.
I want to talk about Loctavian's image.
Loctavian's image.
You got loads of colour, and I'm impressed, and I like it.
He's got the slowpoke in the background.
Yeah. Is that real or is that a green screen?
That's real, dude.
Yeah.
Oh,
got like SLR, right? Yeah. Oh my god.
Dude, that shit's huge.
Beautiful.
Oh lord. Dude, how much was that shit? How much was that shit?
Fuck, don't look, Pikachu. Don't look. Wow.
It's real.
How much was that? That's huge.
300.
$300.
Holy shit.
It's actually my partner's, but
okay.
They let me keep it on the couch because it doesn't fit other places. And also in my wild collection of Pokemon, I have this. Fuck. This is my
what?
Shit, have I got any Pokemon?
Yes.
Man, I'm like the only one here that doesn't have a Pokemon.
Like
damn.
A Snorlax and a
Snorlax.
Alywels or something.
Dude, maybe I should get a Pokemon plushie, like a huge fucking Pokemon plushie. Slowpoke tail, yeah.
Psyduck.
What is that? Oh, it's Psyduck. It's not as buff as the other Psyduck.
Yeah, it's not as buff, is it? I mean, this is like it's just like first gen Pikachu when he was still fat. Like, it's kind of cute. No, but I wanted to. I mean, like, how does your image how do you channel yourself through your image? Because as someone that I feel like I'm pretty plain. Like,
this is my living room.
Okay.
So as far as my image goes, I just kind of keep out everything I think is cool. I want to actually rearrange my camera setup and things like that so I can display more things I think are cool. I just have a lot of things I think are cool, so when I stream, I want to show them. Also, I think it's just like by having things out, like a giant Slowpoke and a skeleton, and the fact that I still have Halloween Direct things up, just it lends itself to conversation when people stop by. You get 7 seconds to snare somebody in, and people might stop and be like, "Nah, no thanks, don't want anything to do with this person." But they might also stop in and see a slowpoke and be like, "Okay, I'll go stick around for a few extra seconds, see what's going on here." So,
Yeah.
Smart.
but yeah, as far as I go, I just like to, I just kind of try to display my personality. But mostly it's just a cluttered living room. But I try to keep as many cool things in my living room, so streaming lets me show off some of my cool things.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, I mean, that the other side of my wall is completely blank. There's nothing there. Chuck all the shit on this side. Yeah.
You have an interesting background. You have guitars and shit.
I mean, you got guitars and amps and stuff. Like anybody's gonna see, you have like you're into music. Like you got.
Yeah. I mean, I've definitely worked on the backdrop. Whereas Nefas here, he's just got like a green sheet.
I was gonna say there's also there's the green screen approach too.
Yeah.
Well,
I have my green screen. I haven't started using it though, but I want to use my green screen to do weird things to actually change my background to being weird places, because I feel like I am a weird person. My entire image is around weird stuff because that's just who I am. I'm just weird.
what do you mean by weird? Like,
I mean, I have a skeleton. I have a skeleton I talk to. Call my co-host. And I have a giant slowpoke. I feel like as somebody in my 30s, that's considered weird. I just say weird because people who are more, I guess, on normie scale look at all this stuff when they see it, like a shelf full of board games and PlayStations and slowpokes and stuff. I don't think many people who watch Twitch would think it's weird, but I just say weird because that's like.
It's like not.
I occasionally get the old high school friends. Like I'll talk to them, and their buddy will come with them, and they'll be like, "Aren't you an adult?" I'm like, "Yeah, an adult who likes cool stuff."
I hate that shit, dude. Like, if you like it, you like it. You know, like who cares what age you are?
Yeah.
Like,
I just more be weird in the normie sense. I don't actually think it's weird. I don't think anybody who freaking grew up in the last 3 decades is weird to have Pokemon shit, because Pokemon, we're all been inundated with it for so long.
Yeah.
Like during the obviously lockdown and stuff, people have been doing more video conferencing. Have you ever had to do like a Zoom chat with people that are completely not into streaming, and they just look at your setup and like, what the?
When I've had to do that's what I still have to do stuff like that on the side. I do consultation work on the side. I don't make enough streaming currently to do this full time. I do consultation work on the side, but that's where the green screen currently comes in. Swap up a green screen and throw just a random image on it, and then it just depends. Before I got let go, like the tech company I was working with was like SeatGeek, and their concert ticket company. They didn't give a shit about any of this. They thought it was cool. But if I'm talking to somebody who's like a dentist, it's been a while since I haven't had to do it during lockdown, but when I did event organization, I would facilitate dentists and all sorts of professional people. I was the in-between the hotel and professional organizations to set up their conferences and things like that. So when I work with dentists and stuff, it's green screen up. Professional green screen up, hair pulled back. I
feel you there. Yeah,
but I'm also from Portland, Oregon, so like this is fairly standard, normal for that.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah. I mean, thankfully, like guitars are like normal enough. Yeah. I mean, people ask questions. Oh, do you actually play all those guitars? I'm like, yeah, sure. Or people ask what my job role is, and I say I do the music for my company, which is like a recruitment charity. And they're like, oh, what does a musician for a recruitment charity do? It's like, clearly not. Why would you have a music department in that? Yeah, it's a fun. It breaks the ice, doesn't it?
Yeah. So at the end of the day, I think that's the thing. Is it's the ice. Up behind you basically becomes icebreakers for people to ask questions about.
Yeah, whether it's streaming or work, or
whether it's streaming or conference calling or Discord. Like some Discords, I'll jump into a video Discord call with people that I've been chatting with there for a while, and it'll be the first time they've seen my setup, and just they'll be like most people are like, is that a giant slowpoke? I'm like, yeah, that's real.
Oh yeah. You guys want to talk about Twitch for a little bit?
Yeah,
because we're all Twitch streamers here.
When I had you on my podcast, like I told you, I had to talk about Twitch all day long.
Oh yeah, we could. Yeah, we could talk about it a little bit. I mean, Like, there's so much shit going on with Twitch. There's so many things. I don't know where to start, to be honest, dude. Like, I guess...
Can we campaign for better than 50% revenue?
I think that's like the biggest pain point.
That's a fucking
across the
pain in
board,
the
no
ass.
matter who you are. Yeah,
I'm like, yeah, I
sure.
say to people, don't subscribe to me on YouTube. Subscribe to my Patreon or something else.
Exactly.
Just throw money at me from like out the window or something. Like.
Twitch has done a good job of building a culture of bits and gifted subs on top of a normal subscription-based revenue, and bits mean the person who's paying Twitch their fee, and subs mean that Twitch is taking their fee. But yeah. And not only that, if you do run ads and things like that, Twitch's CPM compared to like YouTube CPM is just abysmal.
Why do we do it?
Because passion. I don't know.
I really like streaming. I'm trying to branch into other content creations at other places. By the end of the day, I enjoy streaming. I think YouTube will possibly eventually be viable, but right now, the only way to viably stream on YouTube is to already have a built audience on your YouTube channel. Like if I started streaming on YouTube, most people who watch me on Twitch are not coming to YouTube.
Right. And
on top of that, people are going to have just as hard a time finding me on YouTube because I just started YouTube. I have 375 subscribers on YouTube. I don't have an audience base for that to go out to. So Twitch is like still, it's not the only show in town because YouTube's working on it, but it is still, and that's the culture. If you want to stream, you think about Twitch. You think, you think Pog Champs and tryhards and like, and Twitch knows that, and that's why there's no pressure on them to give better revenue splits and things like that.
I think the only reason why anyone should swap to YouTube streaming right now is if you're on the contract too. But even then, your viewership seems to take a hit, at least judging from the other streamers I have gone over.
Following the streamers from the biggest streamers such as a Ludwig, to like a Harris Heller, to other streamers I know who are around my size, and people who are smaller and just starting out. Again, I know some streamers who were only pulling 20 people on Twitch who are now pulling 50, 60, 70 on YouTube. But they had more of a YouTube subscriber base because they've been making YouTube videos for years. So the people on YouTube, some of them were coming over to Twitch, but not a lot were. So when they started streaming on YouTube, because they had enough people, when they would go live, people would get that notification. They would see that video in the recommended feed and things like that. But again, that requires you to not just have a decent subscriber base, but a decent engagement level from that subscriber base where they're engaging enough that YouTube is feeding the fact that you're live into their, feed and things like that for them.
Yeah.
But if Twitch has got everything. Twitch has you can use BTTV with Twitch. You can use Breakerface with Twitch. There's just so much. But as a platform, they just keep looking for new ways to monetize, and it's frustrating. They cannot get off this freaking. Whoever came up with Boosted,
oh my lord,
did not understand that it's not going to work. Boosted, when it was a channel point thing, didn't help the people would pump all their channel points into it, and being boosted would help very few creators. And then they got the idea of like, we can monetize Boosted, and when you pay to boost, it still didn't help people out that much. And now they're like, we're going to attach it to hype trains, and they can pay more to hype it. I'm like, well, do I get that revenue, or do they think they're building a hype train higher to boost me so you can get money to do this boost thing? That's not going to help me, because the whole thing is they're not telling the creators this is how you boost your channel. They're trying to come up with ways to force it out to the viewers, so the viewer thinks I'm helping the streamer I like by boosting.
Right.
When all it is like a cash grab for Twitch. So yeah, stop. Twitch needs to stop.
And now,
it needs to stop.
And now people are exploiting it. By the way, they're putting
really?
they're putting straight up adult streams on the
they're putting pornography on the front page. They throw. Just backfired so much. Dude. I think they should just drop it.
Oh, have you seen that Amaranth woman is selling her scent in a jar?
I mean,
as far as I'm concerned, she can just keep working it.
She's doing great, to be honest.
Yeah.
Hate. What do they say? Don't hate the player, hate the game. Like
exactly.
I'll tell you what, if I could fart in jars and sit in bathwater for 16 hours a day and lick a microphone,
What the fuck?
but my paycheck was $500,000 every 3 months, I would do it.
I
can't
respect
hate
that.
on it
That was
because
our
I
next
can't
offer
hate
for
on
you.
it. I don't have the correct assets for it, but I can't hate on it because I guarantee you, if I could make $1 million doing that for a year,
Yeah, fuck
you
it.
would see me in
yeah.
a hot tub licking a freaking microphone,
Yeah, fuck it.
farting in
Yeah.
jars.
Yeah, I agree. Fuck yeah, I do the same shit. Fuck it.
For
$1 million a year? Fuck. Fuck it. I don't get what people
But-
hate on female streamers and shit, dude. Like, I don't know, man. It's just so weird.
People mostly are looking for something to blame as versus themselves for not succeeding.
Oh my
So as opposed
god.
to so as opposed to going, I need to work on my content. I need to become more engaging. I need to find out what makes people want to watch me over something else. I don't know why people aren't watching me when I'm playing a game in pure silence for 8 hours a stream. Clearly, because that person's a female, the reason they have their viewership is because they're attractive, and that's fine. Maybe that's the reason they brought in some viewers, but that's still.
But-
most of the hate, I think, just comes from those people who are just like mad that and want to blame them for not succeeding. Because the thing is if that person wasn't streaming, those viewers would not be watching.
Right. Dude,
If people are watching, if people are tuning into Twitch to watch somebody lick on a microphone in the ASMR section, they're not going to suddenly find their way
Exactly.
over to the ESO section if the ASMR
Yeah.
section is gone.
dude, maybe I should the microphone with ears, dude. But yeah, I don't
I'll
get
tell
it.
you what, if I actually got in the gym and I was ripped, I would show that off too.
Fuck yeah, yeah,
Might as well.
exactly.
But I think there's a lot of hate because I think people they just want to hate and blame something for their lack of success. Or I mean, there's also the big, trying to avoid terms that can get anybody in trouble because it's not my channel on Twitch. But there is a group of
Go for it.
certain type of people who like to hang out on Reddit who just generally hate anybody who doesn't, share a gender and skin color with them, who think that the gaming space is just for, white men for some
God,
reason.
yeah, we
Does
can
it
talk
rhyme
about that
with
if you want to. Holy shit.
Pin cell. Does it
It
rhyme
does.
with?
It does.
Yeah, just say it. Fuck
does.
it. It's so. But yeah, bro.
I think you can. I think you are allowed to say it. I just avoid saying it on other people's streams because I
Oh, you're allowed to
as
say it as
you're
long
not-
as it's
I,
like.
I can't call somebody. I can't look at somebody and go, so and so in Nephis' chat, you are a.
Yeah, you can't say you're
say
a
the term
simp
insult.
or whatever.
You have to
yeah,
call.
yeah.
You have to call them a tier 3 subscriber now, don't you? Like, that's the thing.
yeah, yeah. But oh man, dude, I fucking hate streamer Twitter. Do you look at it anymore, Ollie or Loctavian? I fucking hate it. It's like this biggest fucking like I don't know
A lot
echo
of people
chamber.
whining. Yeah.
It's like oh don't worry about views. Then the next one's like worry about views or like I don't know. It's just so it's like it's this entire circle of all the things we're discussing.
It's
just
like a
oh,
sort
man,
of
shut the fuck
mental
up.
health roller coaster circle jerk.
Yeah, exactly.
fuck.
It's just-
Some people gain viewership by doing certain things, so everybody tries to do it. So it's like
Jesus.
there was decent ADHD stuff as somebody with ADHD on Twitter and even on TikTok there for a while, but then those people started getting views, and now there's 1,000 ADHD advocates saying stuff
yeah.
that's not necessarily true, and Twitter advice is the same way. And I do look at those areas of Twitter sometimes, but it's kind of like going on Reddit though. Sometimes I just want to. Sometimes I'll see somebody I legitimately has an advice question. I try to answer it if I see really bad advice, but sometimes I just read it because I'm like, 'cause I got convinced of it when I started streaming. Don't do this, don't do that, and as I slowly started doing everything I wasn't supposed to do, I started growing. So
Right. Exactly. Yeah, I see that. I don't know. I see these people
Illuminati
talk
shit.
about all the time about shit like I don't know. It's just so. I just mute them.
yeah, I know.
I just keep muting everyone, but they keep popping up, dude. Oh my lord. I don't know. But yeah, speaking of, I guess Twitch hate. You guys want to talk about? I don't know if we should talk about it. Like, I'm you know what I mean? Or do you guys want to talk about it?
I'm a 9-month champion of hate raids. If you're talking about hate raids,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not cool enough
what?
to get hate rated. So
I'm the grand champion. Well, no, I'm not. There's people who've been getting hate rated longer than me.
Yeah.
I'm probably the
that
grand
sucks, dude. Fuck me.
I mean, it's gotten to a point, and I'm lucky where I live. It's gotten to the point. Literally, last time somebody tried to swap me, the local police officer, whose name is just police.
Yeah.
05 popped in my chat and goes, you're streaming. Have a good stream. It just like wrote
That's
all
hilarious.
all clear in my chat and left because they've gotten to the point where they're just like they took all my info. They just pop on my stream and go, "Oh, you're streaming," and they literally will just write all clear in my chat. But I'm fortunate because not all precincts are going to be like that. I kind of live in the suburbs of Portland. I'm in a fortunate situation where I could have that. But no, it's scary. It's still scary getting doxxed, getting. The ESO category got attacked, and then during Black History Month, Black creators got attacked, and women get attacked, and Asian creators get attacked, and it's circles and circles. And the thing is Twitch needs to do more because the tools Twitch gives us kill us. And what I mean by that is I can turn on a whole bunch of tools that make you have to have a verified phone number and a verified this and a verified that in order to chat on my stream. Guarantee you what happens to my growth when I turn all those things are great to turn on in the middle of the hate raid, but if I leave those things on like Twitch is telling me to do, I'll tell you exactly what happens to my viewer base. Not getting new people, and so like the only features Twitch puts in just tank, and will tank a streamer. It's very frustrating to get the hate raids, and to stop those groups of people takes law enforcement, all sorts of other things. But also I don't know what Twitch needs to do, but they need to do more than they are doing because they're just not seeming to care to protect marginalized creators on the platform. And again, I'm to a point where I have a really good mod team and I have a really good personal support network, and I have gone through things in my life where I know how to handle situations like these, so I can handle it better than most. But then you see these same people attacking people who have like 5 viewers who have no support network.
Yeah.
And it makes me more mad to see that because it's happening to these people who don't have. I have a lot of tools at my disposal to handle it when it goes down, and it's scary and it's unsettling to know people have your address, but at least I have a support network, and I feel again worse for the creators who don't have that.
Right. I've been debating for the past month or so because it's kind of subsided, but at least within the ESO directory,
it comes and goes in waves. For me, but it's kind of left the ESO directory because the ones that have happened to me have all been connected to similar platforms that organize the ESO on, but different people on it for different reasons. Like, whether it's like Pride Month. The first ones happened obviously because I'm a queer creator during Pride Month, right? That's where I first got hit. And then the most recent one was the ESO attacks.
Yeah, I've been debating talking about it openly. You know what I mean? Like, what do you guys think? I mean, Ollie's familiar with the situation because I haven't really talked about it outside of the stream teams, right? Hard mode.
Yeah, I think it's okay to talk about it amongst ourselves and on stream and whatever. It's just you don't want to obviously give too much attention to people in chat if they're being toxic or whatever, because that that just gives them more incentive to do it. See, they know what incentives are.
Yeah, but okay.
The thing is, but I actually have anecdotal proof from what I went through. No matter what you do, their incentive is one. When I absolutely didn't respond, we just deleted all the messages. I could chat quieted down, and we just pretended it didn't happen. On their other platform and on other medias, we succeeded. We could tell we got their skin. And the time I just said fuck it, I said, let me tell you what I think about your hate raids and how childish you are, you alt-right, and went into it. Yeah, they raged. We got clips of them raging. We won. And the times I was calm about it, and the times I was this and that. Yeah. No matter what I did, they're such in this circle frenzy with each other with their hate raids. They're circle jerk. They're always going to be like,
right. So like,
we won, no matter what happens. Because
which is the best for your own mental health then, for like streamers' mental health to deal with it?
My best thing is I generally acknowledge that it happened. And I ask chat to give it no mind, because the thing, and I flat say what they want to do is derail chat. Ultimately, they just want me to quit streaming. That would be their big win. If I'm not going to quit streaming, they want my stream to be focused on us talking about it. So we're going to take a minute. We're going to decompress because it happened. We're going to mention that it happened. This is what's going on. I'm safe. I'm fine. The authorities are fine. Things are good. Let's take a breath. We were in the middle of this giant housing tour. Let's get back to it. Or we're in the middle of this charity drive. Let's focus this energy into charity. So for me, acknowledging that it's real, that it's happening to me, that it is having an impact on not just me, but the community, because everybody, who knows how bad it could be affecting somebody who's just lurking my chat to see bigoted messages, because it's...
Right.
So basically acknowledge that it happened, acknowledge that it's not cool, and then I also say we're not going to let it stop what we're doing, and we just kind of push forward. For me, that's been the best. That and outside of stream, working with my any local law enforcement what I can to try to crack down. But for me, acknowledging it and not pretending it's not happening works better, because my experiences, and that goes back to outside of Twitch though, my experiences in life have always been, the only time I've ever been stopped bullying is when the bullies realize that they're not going to win here. Like, you know, I'll take a fat lip and a black eye, but you know, and that's why I kind of like, if people feel it's best for them to not talk about it, I say do what's best for your mental health. But when people tell me you're making it worse for others by talking about it, I take a little bit of affront to that, because
I agree. I know we've had a conversation about this, right?
I'm like, for my own mental health, I need to acknowledge that this is happening. For my community's sake, I need to acknowledge that this is happening. This is something that's affecting us, because it's affecting a lot of marginalized streamers. So I need to say, hey, this is affecting the queer community here on ESO. It's affecting other marginalized communities here on Twitch. But for me, that works best because we can talk about it, and it gives people a chance to also breathe and realize there's a solidarity there. And for me, that's best for me to push on. Again, if it's best for people to not talk about it, I encourage it. The only thing I don't encourage is people telling other people how to handle it. The only thing you shouldn't do is start calling them names back, because then they can report you to Twitch and get you banned off Twitch.
Yeah, they do that. Oh my god.
Oh man. God.
I think, I used to be like, oh, that was stupid, or you got yourself banned. Okay, I'll do it. Bye. Yeah. But thankfully, I live in a country where we don't have SWATs or anything like that. So
they caught that guy though, right? He said. Or
two people have been apprehended.
Gods, Jesus.
So not connected to the most recent ones, but people connected to older ones. Yeah,
Good.
There's at least 2 people who made enough mistakes that they got themselves good and caught. So.
Oh man, I just don't understand it.
It's weird shit. I don't know.
What were you gonna say?
That's just weird shit. I try to always understand things from multiple perspectives, but in the case of people who are just like full of like literal hate because somebody who's different than them exists, I just don't get it. I'm just like, get over yourself. Like,
yeah,
I know. It's interesting.
Here we go. What's the most embarrassing thing that's ever happened to you on stream?
Oh, I sneezed.
Oh,
if you got
without the mic muted. So whenever I'm about to sneeze, I might mute the mic, go away, and then. But you know what I mean? I don't know how to describe it. I don't like letting people hear me sneeze, or like, you know what I mean? I don't know. There's just something about it. Or like, you know.
What?
What?
Okay.
You don't have that?
No, I don't care. I like burp into my mic and all sorts.
Okay.
I've done multiple week uncapped subathons, and I've slept on stream, and I put bean boozles in a burrito and almost puked on stream. Like, I'm not possessed of what most people consider shame. But honestly, probably eating the bean boozle burrito was one of the grossest things I ever ate. It was an incentive during the subathon. I followed through on it, and I almost actually puked from it. That was actually horrible. I wasn't embarrassed by it, but as much as that was probably the most disgusting thing I'd done on stream.
Oh man, I know someone what was I doing? I was demonstrating how on the bottom floor of Kind's Aegis, there's an off tank. You don't need to do anything. This was in a time when like DDs were going up and killing the ads. I was demonstrating that the off tank doesn't need to do anything, and I got up from my chair and like walked out, and someone clipped it, and you could see my underwear on it. Like,
Okay.
oh fuck. Yeah. But I'm surprised I've never been picked up for like wearing the same shirt like 3 streams in a row. Do you ever feel that? I mean, you're probably someone that changes their shirt every day. But
No, I'm wearing the
some
same
days
shirt.
I'm like,
I'm wearing the same shirt. I'm wearing a very distinct shirt. I'm wearing my Reishi Spore Squad shirt I was wearing yesterday.
oh yeah, nice.
So,
Has anyone ever picked up on like hygiene or anything?
mostly no. Maybe if I've streamed a long time when it's hot, people will sometimes pick up on. Like I get sweaty. I wear a little bit of foundation and makeup in general just to even out my skin tone. Because when I get warm, I get really red. But if I get really sweaty, I'll get Rudolph's nose. I'll get just sweaty, and then the makeup will come off, and I'll just have like this bright red nose. Looks like I'm an 80s guy. I've been snorting cocaine for like 2 weeks straight or something. But so things like that get picked up on. I used to be more concerned about my hygiene than other people were. I don't know why I'd be like, oh, did it? Especially during the peak of COVID when I wasn't leaving my apartment. Like, I haven't showered in 3 days. I switched my clothes, but I haven't actually showered in 3 days. And then I sit down, I feel a little bit grimy. I'd be like, oh, people are going to notice. And then eventually dawned on me, like, they can't smell me through the computer.
Yeah, exactly. That's the best part. Yeah.
Usually I shower quite often, but yeah. But no,
sometimes I usually do like if I've washed my hair that day, it'll be down. If I've washed it the day before, it'll be hair up. And then the third day, it gets to like beanies and caps and stuff. that's the trick there.
We get some questions from chat, then we'll wrap it up. What exactly do you mean by hardcore casual? Did someone say that?
I feel like
Oh, you said it?
I did that. I described myself as that. The reason I say hardcore casual is I feel like when people often say casual player, they mean players who have like a 40-hour work week and kids and this and that, and only can play a few hours a week. And so they only engage with like the easier content. They don't do like a lot of the harder content. What I mean by hardcore casual is, especially as a streamer, I'm engaging with like dozens and dozens, like sometimes 40, 50 hours a week ESO. So I would be playing as much as somebody would consider hardcore, but then when you, until recently, that content would be like fishing, housing design. It would be gathering sky shards. It'd be clearing zones for the first time on PC. So hardcore casual just means I'm doing a lot of the content people consider casual content, but I'm putting in the amount of hours that probably somebody who does much more difficult content would do. Because when people say, because I would say I do a lot of casual content. I'd say I'm a casual Andy, and people would be like, you just streamed ESO for 10 hours. That's not really casual hours. I think hardcore casual is just kind of like a weird descriptor to say, okay, I'm doing casual. I'm doing a lot of hours of casual content.
Yeah.
Have you ever not worn pants? On stream, I'm guessing. I always wear pants, even if you can't see it. It just feels weird. I guess it's kind of weird actually thinking about it. I guess
I usually wear sweatpants. I never wear like jeans.
Well, I guess like some people would. You think some people watch us naked, or like, you know what I mean, like
maybe,
or in the bathroom? It's you know what I mean. It's kind of like.
I listen to podcasts when I fall asleep, and that feels like weird.
I've watched Twitch in the bathroom, but not like. But just because like I was watching on my mobile and I needed to take a shit. And
Yeah.
In that way, so yeah. So I assume other people probably do that too.
Yeah. How do you feel about people like falling asleep to your voice and stuff? Is that weird?
Nothing is, after doing a uncapped subathon where I streamed for like 2 weeks straight, nothing is weird to me. The first time you wake up after people watched you sleep and you think everybody's going to be gone because you were sleeping and 90 people are all writing good morning in chat, you just kind of lose any sense of anything seeming weird anymore.
Yeah.
As far as pants go, though, I mean, short sometimes, but always pants, because I mean, this is a long living room, and I'll go like grab my dog, or I'll stand up and I'll dance and I'll do things on stream. So if I'm not wearing pants, I would probably eat a band if I just jumped up randomly. So
yeah,
maybe if I was stationary the whole stream, I would consider it, but probably not. I just feel weird not. I feel weird knowing I was talking to other people without pants on for some reason. So.
Yeah. Are men allowed to be topless on Twitch?
Yes.
Men?
And can be topless, yes.
As long as it's not sexual, right?
As long as it's not sexual oriented. But I've watched people do like workout streams, and I've seen. I mean, one of the Mario 64 speedrunners I watch simply will often take off his shirt while he's speedrunning. So yeah.
Oh, okay. That's weird. But okay.
I'll take that into account when it gets hot in the summer.
I guess if you're just doing 16-hour grinds of the same
I guess.
124
True.
you just want to be comfortable in your room, but
Yeah.
Topless weekly streams.
I guess I'll
Topless
take my shirt off
topless
one day.
raids. Yeah, let's do topless raids. Come on. It's the future of ESOU.
They're giving refunds back on extra character slots that seem bought and passed since everything. Okay, that question kind of got jumbled. I think what people are asking. I guess I'll ask this too because that kind of leads off there. What do you think about player compensation? You think they do enough in ESO or whatever, or what do you guys think about that as a concept in general?
Compensation, like
Yeah, whenever a server goes out, everyone's like, oh, they should compensate us 1 day of ESO plus, or 1 day of the event, or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, what
and
do you
they
think about that?
prioritize NA. Like EU didn't get any crown scrolls and shit. Yeah, go on.
do you not get crown scrolls and stuff?
Oh, not when our servers went down. We only got it when NA servers went down.
Oh, okay.
So
in
it's really unfair.
the past, they've done a good job. Like, was it 2 or 3 years ago when like some of the events were really badly messed up, so they brought them back like later.
Yeah.
That was
to make
Mid-Year
sure people
Mayhem.
could do 'em. It was mid-year, yeah. It was mid-year mayhem.
That's why we have 2 Mid-Year Mayhems, by the way, because the first one got delayed in 2020? It was 2020.
It was like it was
Great
couple
War.
years, yeah.
Yeah,
like
they
a
delayed
January
it.
one.
And-
Yeah, and now it's like White Strikes Mayhem.
Now
or something,
there's
isn't it?
2 a year because of that. It's kind of funny. It's ESO lawyer.
I don't know. It really depends on what's going on as far as like compensation and things like that go. I mean, I think the game should have more rewards in it in general, but
I think
if it goes down
situational.
if it goes down for like a day, then it's one thing. When it was unplayable for like a week after the patch on PC, then yeah, they probably should do something to say, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
In my opinion, more than an extra amount that you still have to sign in 10 days to get.
True.
Yeah.
I think my bigger thing that won't get fixed, but I'm putting a video together on and talk about a lot is, I think the way they monetize the game is fine in some ways and completely unscrupulous in others. I think charging individual outfit slots for characters, individual armory slots for characters, selling things that you can buy in the game for gold with little disclaimers and stuff like that is bad and needs to be fixed. I know it's different. I know we're off topic from compensation, but I would kind of rather see them fix some of the things they sell
Yeah.
versus worrying as much about compensation.
I think these next 2 questions for Loctavian. What do you think ESO for console players is missing?
The biggest, so the steps in the correct direction. I think they should just show all the sky shards and the lore books on the map, but that was still a step in the right direction. Moving to PC, some of the biggest things that I didn't realize I absolutely don't know how I played for 5 years without minimap. Console players need minimaps. I think there are housing tools in the EHT that can be implemented and added to the overall game so that there's parity and they can be used. Not all of them. EHT is a very huge thing.
big.
But there are certain things there's certain ways that things snap together a bit better and things like that could be implemented for housing people on console. But I think the biggest things that I use is like better map pins, mini maps, and then quality of life stuff in doing my writs, like with like lazy writ crafter, writ worthy. Because honestly, I used to, when I was on console, I would make a Google list of every single master writ I had to do and all the things.
Lord.
Then I'd go to each of the stations and I would make it so that I didn't have to take out my writs so I could do it en masse.
Jesus.
Whereas on PC, there's something called writ worthy that does all that work for me. Things like that, I
Yeah.
think.
Would be good.
I think that would be good. I think the quality. I think they've added some of that quality of life stuff in. I think just taking more of the stuff that is currently in add-ons and putting it in the base game for those quality of life things. And then as far as compensation goes, if you're going to take something, I know people do it as passion projects and want maybe hire the people who make the good add-ons to make better stuff for your game.
They did
Give them
bring
money.
in Cardinal. I'm pretty
They
sure.
did. They have
right?
done. They have done that with some people. That's true.
Yeah, EHT. Yeah.
Yeah. To do stuff like that.
What's one thing you would add to ESO to help players transition from Overland to group content?
We talked a lot about that.
I think our
Earlier.
idea was like, we don't know.
The
Basically.
big thing is we don't know. Something to help people learn and understand attack weaving without needing to have a buddy or a guildmate or somebody explain it because it's so crucial. And two, the thing I would add is stuff you can do in Overland content with incentives to bring experienced players down to it. That's a bit harder so that people can learn certain mechanics outside of having to do a full dungeon to learn those mechanics. How to implement that, I don't know. That was kind of what we came to with it. I don't know, but something that brings together the top end players and the casual players together so that the casual players can learn some mechanics and stuff before they have confidence, so they can build up the confidence and they want to try the harder content.
Yeah. It's a good idea saying that if the top end players play with the bottom level players, that's going to make the bottom level players better because they'll learn something, right? So,
right. That's how I learned was playing with better players than myself. But you just have to create harder content that's also incentivized to bring those players down so they're interacting.
Yeah.
Or like at least have people ask questions or like say, I need help, because I don't see any of that anymore.
Because if you're doing, if I'm just getting to that content as a new player and you're an experienced player and you're doing that content in the zone that's harder because there's an incentive for you to be there, and that person poses a question, you will actually be in the zone to maybe, it might not be you and people might ignore it, but somebody might be in the zone to actually answer that question because they're actually there doing similar content. Like, oh, I'm doing that. This is how you do that.
Right.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Does anyone else have any questions for Loctavian? Well, we have him here.
Oh, a decon all button would be fantastic too, yeah.
Oh, no. We gotta have a decon assistant for that one.
Yeah.
The assistant has that function.
Yeah, but there's an add-on for a decon. It's called Mass Deconstruct.
It's either an add-on or a monetization. You know, it's... Man, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is a threshold, and people have it at different levels, and there is a threshold that you don't come back from with over monetization of a game, and it is a very big concern of mine with every game I play, and ESO's definitely one of the ones where there does come a point of monetization where you milk your community too much and people just leave and they don't come back, and that's something I'm very fearful as with monetization in the game at this point is it eventually can get to a point where people are just like, nah, sorry, you've milked me for too long, you monetize everything, and I just don't feel like there's
enough
anything for me to do in the game without me paying more money for it.
Yeah.
I mean, people had that in the beginning of the game with the mount, right? Like you only got a mount at like level 1 if you bought the Imperial Edition or something like that. Isn't that a thing? But I mean, I'm glad we've come away from that at least.
Yeah. I just worry every time there's new monetizations. I understand needing to fund a non-subscription based game, but at the same time, like when there's a very lacking amount of rewards you get from in-game content, and it feels like every single thing has a price tag on it, it starts getting to the point where you're like, it gets to a point where more and more people can start feeling like, I'm not buying a complete game, I'm buying a game that I have to buy the other pieces to.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, Madion's here. Asking a question. Bard's personality is coming. Okay, now the question is just the question.
I'm hyped.
Bard personality?
They added a Bard personality.
Yeah, it's in the preview, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, in the console preview.
What do you think, in your experience, MMOs can do for the queer community or queer players? Would you like to see more queer representation in in-game content?
ESO does an amazing job of queer representation compared to other games. They normalize gay relationships. They normalize. They have a storyline, a GLAAD award-winning storyline with a trans character, and I think that's good. I think normalizing it. I think yes, Alchemy's storyline is important and it's a trans story, but having trans characters and gay characters and all of that stuff in the game and just having them be a part. Like you'll talk to 2 NPCs in Deadlands and find out that one of the innkeeper has a werewolf husband. You're like, oh, cool. That's just a normalized part of the game. And as part of the queer community, I think that's how you normalize things, is you just have them be normal parts of the world. What I think the game could do for queer people, what I think, and this goes to a bigger project I think should be undertaken, is I think there should be more resources for marginalized people or people in general, which comes down to, I think there should be a better system for how you can locate guilds in the game, because if there was a curated or a vetted way for me to be able to more easily find an LGBTQ guild or, you know, a guild for this, that, or the other thing, I think that would be good overall for the game. Yes, it could lead to people targeting those groups, kind of like tags on Twitch does, but I think part of the problem is it can be hard to find other queer players. If you are an Asian player, it can be hard to find other Asian players. It can be hard to find other Black players. It can be hard to find other female players, whatever your thing is. And I think not just the queer community, but overall having a more robust system for guilds and vetting guilds and being able to locate guilds would also put more importance on guilds, because you could have, you know, those communities exist, but it can be hard to find them for a new player. Hell, as an experienced player, it can be hard sometimes for me to find communities, you know, that I want to.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I've been looking for ages to try and find a guild full of straight white dudes, and it's
just so hard.
Oh, okay, Wally.
I'm being stupid. No.
I think also, I really like how ESO did it for short. Like, it's just there. It's not something, I don't know how to say it, like, it's just there. You know, like, my favorite quest in ESO is that quest with, I don't know if you guys know this quest, is Malabator, I think. You meet these two male wood elves on the hill. One of them is dying, and they're just like lovers, right? And one of them asks you to get the flower for them, and it's a really simple quest. You just get the flower, come back, he's dead, and that's you know what I mean? Like, it's just there. I really love that shit.
It's Elder Scrolls games in general, the single player ones and ESO do a really good job. Again, it's just normalized. Like I said, there's a quest like that that's sad. There's NPCs who are married, who are queer. It's like it's just part of the Argonians can switch gender on a whim. Alchemy has a very in-depth quest around being trans, like, and it makes the world feel more inviting, and to see representation. And when you can see yourself represented in a game, it's a nice thing. And I think they should keep doing stuff like that, because that is fairly unique, honestly, in the gaming space.
And they do it in a way that's like normal and not over the top, like
not forced.
People put in like a gay character, there'll be some like camp, whatever, just fit loads of stereotypes, and that's not. I imagine that's not representative of everyone.
It's not representative. Like, again, it's really, really great that they have Alchemy's story, which is a trans story and a whole quest line, but it's also just as great to have the innkeeper and his werewolf husband, and have the Malabel tour, like, kind of just quick side quest with like the 2 male lovers, like having them in all parts of the thing, from a focused quest that is a queer story to just a normal queer couple that's there. Nothing feels forced, nothing feels pandering. It doesn't feel like when most companies slap a rainbow flag up in June and rip it down in July, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It feels like this is actually just part of the world, and the world feels like a world that queer people could be in.
Yeah, for sure.
I prefer when it's normalized rather than forced. I mean, I hate that shit when companies do that shit with Asians. Oh my god, you're Asian. You know what I mean? It's like, or Chinese, you're okay, buddy. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, I don't know, dude. Like, whatever. You know, you're human, I'm human. Just fuck it. You know.
Oh, Charlie, too cool. Did you not know that Argonians could switch their gender?
Fish can do that, can't they? If like there's no like female, then one of them will become a female.
There's actually a quest in Murkmire where the quest giver laments that he found out too late that the other Argonian liked him because
Oh
when
yeah,
he was
that
a
one.
she, it made more sense. But now that they're both males, they can't procreate. Yeah,
I remember that
they
one.
can't have eggs. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Murkmire's really good for like if you just want like a good flash of like Argonian lore. Like Murkmire's the storyline of Murkmire is pretty good, even if the zone can be a little frustrating.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was a great question, by the way. Shit. Okay, why is community's discussion about separating apart people into groups? I prefer the normalization and Gil's strong without needing to highlight any specific group. Is this in reference to what Loctavian was talking about with LG, like specific guilds made by specific?
If you have a guild just for like queer people, yeah, I think it's important that everyone integrates with each other, obviously, because I think that's the only way that people are going to learn.
Well,
right?
that's hard too because like
it's hard as well. Yeah.
Well,
I'm not talking about. I think we have 5 guild slots, and I think people should integrate with each other and learn from each other. However, for example, I can only talk about myself as a queer player. I would like to join a guild that is focused on other queer players because maybe we have particular issues, maybe something's going on that affects us. And I'm not saying allies couldn't be part of said guild. I'm just saying like having groups and communities of people who are the same is not about isolating myself from other people. I still have I still have a trade guild. I still have a, guild for raiding. I still have a guild for this community and that. It's just nice to have spaces sometimes to be able to talk to people who experience similar things. It's kind of like also as somebody with like ADHD and other kind of learning disabilities and stuff, sometimes I like to find groups of other ESO players who also have that because we can talk about what it's like to experience the game with these, with having ADHD and MMOs. It's just it's not about excluding other people. If people want to be there and learn and be part of it, that's great too. But it's nice to be able to find communities, and sometimes it's hard to find communities. And I also bring that up, being able to find communities, because sometimes people join guilds with people who, might not be as friendly towards queer people or things like that. It happens. And so being able to easily find guilds where that they're kind of safe spaces for that, I think is important. It just helps people feel a sense of belonging, and it's to be able to talk to other people who experience similar issues that you do. But but at the same time, we have 5 guild slots, so I'm not saying to do that and to like hole away from everybody else. I still think you should be parts of a bunch of other guilds. I think we should all commingle for sure.
Okay.
There's just some things some people won't understand, and sometimes it's good to have people who do understand. If that makes sense, at least to me.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it's about inclusion, not exclusion. Like I said, I'm not saying have these groups so you can like only hang out with them. I'm just saying it's
Oh yeah. I understand what you're saying.
I was just trying to clarify for the question, because I just don't want to make sure I was presenting myself in a way that was saying that the way to fix things is for everybody to hole off into their own personal like.
Yeah, no, that's the opposite of
Yeah. It's also a two-way street, you know what I mean? The whole inclusion part. Like first you need to want to be included, if that makes sense, right? Like, yeah. Like for me, like I've been trying to like learn more about like in particular I was watching a lecture by a professor I know, Professor Christina Olsen. She gave a lecture on like like trans youth. I didn't know anything about this shit. I really didn't. It like gave me like more insight into all the statistics and also like the things people go through. And I think if it's not just on MMOs, I think it's also like you have to kind of do it too. You know, if that makes sense. Like if you want to learn more about Asians, you want to talk to the Asians. You know what I mean? Right? But it has to be there in the first place for you to like want to be included. Stuff like that. Do you think they should add more guild slots? Huh. I'm of the personal opinion that the guilds, like, maybe it's because the guild system in ESO is like not much, but like sometimes I think having just one guild would be better in some aspects, if that makes sense. Like there'd be more guild loyalty or something like that, or there's like more incentive to participate in a guild as opposed to your attention being spread across 5 guilds. But that's just me. That's my personal opinion. What do you guys think?
There's pros and cons to each system. I'd like not to need a guild for a guild trader, because like I don't engage with my trade guild at all. I'm literally just using them for their slot. So.
I don't know if there are trade guilds who have like tight-knit communities of people, but on console and now on PC, my trade guild is that I make a lot of sales. I hit my quota. They have a good trader. We all high-five the fact that we're all making good sales and able to afford to keep our good trader. I have said nothing in that guild in half a year, but I haven't been threatened to be kicked out of that guild, even though it's maxed out, because I assume because I just have a very good sales record, right? So I don't know if there should be more guilds or less guilds. I think you're right that there's pros and cons. I know having one guild does have the pros of, like, you really find the guild and you get really close to your guild mates because that's your guild, right? But having multiple guilds is nice because you can have guilds for different things. But I also think, like Nephis, that on console at least, my guilds were really close and really cool. But as times went on, like, yeah, guilds became less and less. The people I was friends with and close, and maybe it's Discord. I don't know the prevalence of Discord, but honestly, I'm close to. Even on console, I was closer with my Discord community and the people on that who weren't all in the same guild than I was with any guild I was part of. Those were who I organized stuff with and ran stuff with, for the most part. So yeah, I feel like the guild system in ESO is somewhat. I don't know. Maybe because there's too many guild slots or whatever. I just don't feel like. I feel like there's some people who really love their guilds and really focus on guild stuff and put a ton of work into the guild. Don't get me wrong, but I also feel like there also doesn't feel like there's as much lacking when you're not in a guild as it does in other games, I feel like.
I mean, honestly, for what it is, I think the ESO guild system is better than the Lost Ark guild system. That's so.
Lost Ark guild system. No, Lost Ark guild system. I do not like.
I like some aspects of it, like you can like level up together as a guild and unlock more stuff for the guild, right? So that
I like the idea of like
but
leveling the weekly things.
Yeah. But I don't.
Up and you get access to things because of that.
But I don't like the fact that it's organized by character. And I'm just like, oh my god, what a you know what I mean? Like
I do like my account being part of a guild versus my character.
Yeah, exactly.
So many MMOs, your character is part of a guild and your other character is part of a guild, or maybe the guild will let your alt join the guild. I hate that.
Yeah, I hate that shit.
ESO letting your account be the part of the guild is my most preferred system, and I wish more games did it, actually.
Yeah, the World of Warcraft one is really annoying,
okay, we'll wrap it up here pretty soon. Do you think they'll add more space slots in the houses?
I'm sure we asked like this to the developers, and they said like it just takes too much.
So this goes back to the whole developer interviews and stuff that most players don't see, but they talk about this, and some of this has to do with the fact that they're still planning the game around the older systems for console, like Xbox One and shit like that.
Once PlayStation 5 and the current Xbox have mass adoption, which they can't because there's shortages.
Yeah, exactly.
And enough of the player base has moved over, which they'll be able to see, then they can build everything around that. But right now they have to build housing around what PlayStation and Xbox service support. I do think they're making steps to possibly be able to maybe do it in the future. If you do look at this recent patch, they did do some work on the back end of housing to help with like load times and instance times and things like that with houses. And I'm not saying they did that so they could add more space to houses and things, but fixing that is a kind of foundation stone that could maybe lead to something cool down the road.
Yeah.
Without a roadmap, we wouldn't know.
No. Like they added special furnishings and all these kind of extra categories to put more slots in there without actually putting more slots in. So I reckon it could be on the cards for the future.
yeah, basically, get your PS5s soon, please. It's insane, the shortage, dude. I got mine right after the 1-year anniversary of PS5 coming out.
I got mine right when they came out, and there's been no games for it, and I just lucked out. I lucked out and got it.
Oh, jeez.
I had pre-ordered at Target, but Intel was honest as part of their market strategy. I'm sure their board of directors went back and forth to decide what was best for their company image, but they basically said last year the chip shortage. They're building new factories and building this, that, and the other thing, but we're probably not going to see anywhere near an end of a chip shortage till at least 2023.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we'll see more housing slots next year.
Yeah.
All right. But yeah, I don't want to keep you guys for here too long, so we can wrap it up as I don't think there's any more questions. But yeah, I enjoyed our discussion. Thank you so much for coming onto the stream, Loctavian.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks for inviting me. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Where do we find you on socials?
Oh, twitch.tv/Loctavian, and then on Twitter and Instagram it's Loctavian with 2 zeros after it because Loctavian was taken there. So basically Twitter and Instagram Loctavian00, and Twitch just Loctavian.
Nice. What about your YouTube that's got 300?
Oh, that's also Loctavian. My 375 viewer YouTube. I am going to be working more on my YouTube channel. So if you do want to check out the YouTube channel that I'm going to start putting more videos on it, it's youtube.com/Loctavian.
TikTok?
I'm basically Loctavian everywhere except for Instagram and Twitter, where I have to put 2 zeros after it.
Perfect.
SoundCloud?
No SoundCloud. Not that musically inclined. Maybe I could make something. I'll do something.
You fart into a jar, record that.
Oh, Lord. I mean, a millionaire, you know.
Yeah, man. That's yeah. This is screw the SoundCloud rappers. It's the SoundCloud fart jar streamers. Yeah.
But yeah, it was really nice to talk to you, man.
Yeah, nice to see you.
Yeah, I'll see you guys soon.
See you
have a
soon.
great rest of the
Lots
weekend.
love.
And
Cheerio. Take care.